Chapter 644. It was almost impossible to take the entire sacred land into one's inner world. Even with Jiu Fei's peerless immortal physique and the same level of cultivation as Li Xuandao, it was still difficult to do so. Taking an area of 10,000 li into one's inner world was no longer a divine ability of the Almighty. Only an extreme Dao expert would be able to accomplish such a feat. It was easy to shatter an area of 10,000 li and turn a part of the world into a primordial void. However, even an Almighty would find it difficult to separate an area of 10,000 li from this world. Therefore, after discussing with Patriarch Li Jingxie, Hierarch Li Fan, and the others, Jiu Fei decided to only take the most important areas of the God race's sacred land into his inner world. They planned to give up the other areas. The sacred mountain and the two divine springs of life must be moved into Jiu Fei's inner world. There was also the herb valley for growing divine herbs and the archaic bronze temple for refining divine weapons. Several picturesque areas that resembled immortal realms were also moved into the inner world. Those below the God Monarch realm dispersed and packed their belongings. An hour later, they gathered outside the Violet Immortal Palace. Then, Jiu Fei opened his inner world and took them in. Subsequently, under the leadership of Patriarch Li Jingxie and Hierarch Li Fan, the God Monarchs spread out to carve countless divine runes on the sacred mountain and the two divine springs. Only the God King realm and above could imprint the divine rune of the immortal Tao in the void. With the power of the great Tao condensed from the divine rune of the immortal Tao, they could sever the void and sever the connection between the sacred mountain and the divine spring with this world, forcibly separating the sacred mountain and the divine spring from this world. Only with this method could the sacred mountain and the divine springs be moved into Jiu Fei's inner world. 3 days and 3 nights later, strange noises and energy fluctuations suddenly came from the sacred land of the divine race. Then, the 9 heavenly pillars outside the sacred land soared into the sky and flew into the depths of the sacred land. The 9 heavenly pillars, which had existed for an unknown number of years, had finally completed their mission and disappeared in the depths of the God Clan's holy land. The unusual movements of the God Clan's holy land immediately alarmed the major races in the depths of the world of death. All the undead creatures were inexplicably amazed. They didn't expect that the divine race would remove the barrier around the divine race's holy land. In this case, wouldn't all the undead creatures be able to enter that vibrant world? Soon, many powerful undead creatures gathered outside the divine race's holy land. Although the spell had been withdrawn, none of the undead creatures dared to rashly enter the world of light in front of them. Rumble. From the depths of the divine race's holy land came a series of strange sounds that sounded like muffled thunder. The entire death world was affected, and one could feel the tremors coming from the ground. Soon, the figure of the incomparably powerful undead creature appeared outside the divine race's sacred land. Swoosh! The supreme emperor of the undying skeleton race had arrived. His sole divine light illuminated the entire heaven and earth. His skeletal body emitted tens of thousands of rays of divine light, and a vast soul fluctuation spread between heaven and earth. Boom! From another direction, monstrous black energy surged. That was the ghostly energy of the netherworld. It emitted a creepy and frightening aura. Amidst the ghostly energy, a shadow was faintly discernible. The supreme emperor of the netherworld race had arrived. The supreme corpse emperor of the corpse race had also appeared outside the divine race's holy land. The strength of the corpse emperor was obviously much weaker than the supreme emperor of the undying skeleton race and the supreme emperor of the netherworld race. The supreme emperor of the corpse race had already been killed by Jiu Fei's violet gold divine sword. The new supreme corpse emperor didn't have invincible battle prowess. He simply couldn't be compared with the supreme emperor of the undying skeleton race and the supreme emperor of the netherworld race. The 3 great sovereigns appeared outside the divine race's holy land. They were all observing and didn't enter the area with exuberant vitality in front of them. They had some scruples. The God race was absolutely not to be trifled with, even if there seemed to be a major change in the divine race's holy land that even the barrier around the divine race had been withdrawn. However, even so, a group of powerful undead creatures only dared to peep outside the divine race's holy land. They didn't dare to rashly enter the divine race's holy land. As time passed, the weather in the depths of the divine race's holy land changed. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to gather towards the divine race's holy land. It seemed that someone was gathering spiritual energy from all directions in the depths of the divine race's holy land. Gradually, the flowers and trees in the divine race's holy land began to wither and turn yellow. The life essence of this land was constantly gathering towards the depths of the divine race's holy land. The vitality of all living creatures was rapidly draining away. The flowers and trees that had lost their vitality began to wither and turn yellow. Then, the death energy from outside the divine race's holy land rushed into the divine race's holy land, turning them into ashes that drifted in the void. The 9 heavenly pillars that sealed the divine race's holy land flew away. The barrier that isolated the divine race's holy land from the outside also disappeared. The death energy outside the divine race's holy land began to corrode the divine race's holy land. The last pure land in the world of death was gradually turning into a lifeless land of death. Boom! An earth-shattering sound suddenly came from the depths of the divine race's holy land. The sound shook the heavens and the earth, causing the vault of heaven to tremble and the earth to tremble. The entire world of death shook violently. A ripple that was visible to the naked eye spread out from the depths of the divine race's holy land. Outside the divine race's holy land, many powerful undead creatures in the sky directly fell from the sky and smashed heavily on the ground. Even the supreme emperors of the undead clan, the supreme emperors of the Netherworld clan, and the newly appointed Supreme Corpse Emperor had a change of expression. They hurriedly retreated. After half an hour, the abnormal movements in the depths of the divine race's holy land gradually calmed down. The terrifying energy fluctuations were also rapidly weakening. Until the depths of the divine race's holy land had completely calmed down, the powerful undead creatures that had retreated gradually gathered towards the divine race's holy land. Great change. It's definitely a great change. A great change has occurred in the divine race's holy land. The supreme emperors of the Undead Skeleton clan and the Netherworld clan were inexplicably shocked. They really wanted to know what had happened in the depths of the divine race's holy land. At this time, in the inner world of Gu Fei's peerless immortal body, a huge mountain was suspended high in the sky. On the peak of the mountain, there was an immortal palace shrouded in divine light. This unfalling divine mountain was the divine race's sacred mountain. The inner world that Li Xuandao had developed was definitely big enough to fit the entire divine clan's sacred land inside. In the inner world, the immortal Dao's aura was vast and mighty. The area where the unfalling divine mountain was located was shrouded in immortal qi and flickering lights. It was like a land of immortals. The 2 divine springs of life formed 2 small lakes at the foot of the sacred mountain. A vast amount of life essence gushed out from the 2 springs, nourishing this area and making it dense with spiritual qi. In another direction, demonic qi soared to the sky. The old tortoise had reached the critical moment of breaking through the profound door. The divine race's sacred mountain was located in the east of the inner world. This area was temporarily the divine race's foothold. In the south of the inner world, there was a huge mountain-like seal. The north was where the old tortoise was trying to break through the bottleneck. Standing on the sacred mountain, Gu Fei opened his immortal divine eyes and scanned the surroundings. He found that the old tortoise was sitting cross-legged above the divine spring. The spiritual essence of the heaven and earth that had piled up like a small mountain in the divine spring had already turned into dust. A steady stream of life essence was sucked out by him and entered his body. Endless demonic Dao patterns appeared on the old tortoise's body. Those Dao patterns seemed to have grown inside his body, and there was a great divine charm lingering around him. The demonic qi was vast and mighty. The divine spring of life below had long dried up, but endless life essence was still gushing out from the mouth of the spring, as if it was inexhaustible. This small divine spring was only a branch of the spirit root. Therefore, even though this divine spring was small, it contained a vast amount of life essence energy. The spirit root was providing the small divine spring with life essence energy. Otherwise, this small divine spring would have long been wasted. He Tian was hiding in a small valley where spiritual energy gathered. He was also cultivating. The yin and yang bony body had yin and yang qi lingering around it, but the soul fire in his skull was very calm. The power of yin and yang circulated on the yin and yang bony body, and a Tai Chi diagram appeared around He Tian. The divine charm of the great Tao circulated around the diagram. Not bad. The immortal divine eyes could see through the void, and He Tian had nowhere to hide. When Jiyu Fei sensed He Tian's aura, he couldn't help but nod inwardly. In time, this ruffian skeleton might break through the monarch realm and become a sovereign realm expert. After carefully observing the old tortoise and He Tian, he saw that the two were making their final sprint. In the world of cultivation, strength determined everything. Tai Sovereign Seal. Jiyu Fei's eyes fell on the ancient seal that was like a giant mountain. This treasure had smashed into a mountain range. Although the seal was full of cracks, it did not collapse. Countless demon race Tao patterns appeared on the seal, and a trace of the great Tao's aura circulated around the seal. Cheap old tortoise. Although Jiyu Fei was also very jealous, this treasure was a sacred relic of the demon race. If he took it for himself, he was afraid that all the demons in the world would come to him for revenge. After Jiyu Fei settled down the celestial race, he directly opened the inner world and walked out. Those guys. After coming out of the inner world, Jiyu Fei immediately sensed the movement outside the celestial race's sacred land. There were many powerful undead creatures spying on him. However, Jiyu Fei didn't pay attention to those guys. Instead, he directly disappeared into the void, teleporting away. In the land of demon sealing, the devil chi was boundless. 18 devil flags were planted in the ground, exuding thick layers of devil chi. In the center of these 18 devil flags sat a black-haired young man. This black-haired young man was Ying Tian. He was circulating his devil chi to reform his soul. Swish. At this time, the sound of whistling wind sounded. A white-robed young man walked out from the void as if he had appeared out of thin air. Chapter 645. It's you. Sitting cross-legged in the middle of the devil array formation, the Earth Archdevil ancestor Ying Tian asked calmly. He had no intention of getting up from the ground. On his body, there was a faint and illusory demonic shadow. Powerful soul power surged out from the demonic shadow. It was a demonic soul. Jiyu Fei walked in the air, directly arriving outside the devil array formation. The 18 devil flags fluttered noisily in the wind, with devil runes and the aura of the great Tao flowing around them. This was the aura of the great Tao of the devil. These 18 devil flags were not simple at all, gathering the surrounding heaven and earth energy into devil chi to nourish the devil soul. I really want to know how you entered the god race's holy land, how you broke the holy mountain's restrictive array formation, and how you took away the devil soul sealed inside. Jiyu Fei asked nonchalantly. The restrictive array formation outside the god race's holy land was definitely a peerless array formation set up by an extreme Tao master imbued with the power of the great Tao. Even a supreme expert would find it difficult to break it. Being able to sneak into the god race's holy land without a trace, subduing a group of god race experts, and even imprisoning the old tortoise and He Tian from his inner world, this kind of method made Jiyu Fei's heart palpitate. This level of restrictive array formation cannot stop me, Ying Tian stated. He didn't want to explain in detail. Soul force surged from his body, as if two powerful devil souls were intertwining and fusing together. Even with the devil array's barrier, strands of soul force still leaked out, filling the air with a kind of demonic energy. This kind of devil aura could stir up a cultivator's heart devil, affecting their state of mind. Of course, this kind of demonic energy couldn't affect Jiyu Fei at all. Oh. A cold light flickered in Jiyu Fei's eyes. He wasn't surprised at all. This devil was a legendary innate god nurtured by the heaven and earth. It would be strange if he didn't have some ability. What do you want? Ying Tian sensed the intense killing intent from Jiyu Fei, but he remained calm, not the slightest bit nervous. Jiyu Fei stared coldly at the Earth Archdevil ancestor Ying Tian. This guy was one of the 5 elements Archdevil ancestors, the oldest Archdevil god between heaven and earth. Jiyu Fei was contemplating whether he should make a move, whether he had the ability to kill such a ferocious devil. He wasn't confident. Even extreme experts like the Buddhist Lord and the Supreme Tao Ancestor couldn't kill this fiendish demon in front of him. They could only suppress it, let alone himself. The other party was not the Jade Bone Demon. While he could kill the Jade Bone Demon, the ferocious demon before him was not something that the Jade Bone Demon could compare with. Ji Fei's expression flickered several times. In the end, the vague killing intent on his body vanished. He really wasn't confident in being able to kill this fiendish devil in front of him, so he endured it. Seeing that Ji Fei had retracted his killing intent, the Earth Archdevil ancestor Ying Tian inwardly let out a sigh of relief. He was at a critical juncture of refining his devil soul. If this guy came to disturb him, all his efforts would go to waste, and he would have to start all over again. "Do you know where those two bald donkeys are?" Ji Fei asked. Since he wasn't confident he could kill this fiendish devil, he would go settle the debt with the little monk Fan Xiu. Ying Tian was stunned hearing this. Did this guy want to join hands with those two bald donkeys? This was not a good idea. "Don't know," Ying Tian answered straightforwardly, because he really didn't know. The little monk Fan Xiu and that nameless old monk's whereabouts were very secretive, as if they were plotting something. Humph. Ji Fei snorted coldly, then turned around and left without saying another word. He was very familiar with that little monk Fan Xiu. Don't be fooled by this little monk's delicate appearance. In truth, this little guy could be said to be the ancestor of all underhanded methods. Even someone as astute as the old tortoise had suffered losses time and time again under this little monk's hands, causing him to gnash his teeth in hatred, wishing he could tear this little monk into pieces. The fact that little monk Fan Xiu and that nameless old monk were hiding in the dark made Ji Fei feel very uneasy. The threat that little monk Fan Xiu posed to him was no less than the Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian. After leaving the land of Devil Sealing, Ji Fei wanted to find the little monk Fan Xiu. His figure kept appearing in every corner of the Hell Dao. However, he didn't find anything. That little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk seemed to have vanished into thin air. This made Ji Fei feel even more uneasy. What are those two bald donkeys trying to do? Ji Fei returned to the god race's holy ground, standing on top of a spiritual mountain, falling into contemplation. Inside the god race's holy ground, the remaining spiritual energy was still dissipating. The aura of death began to appear in this paradise. Inside the god race's holy ground, large pits could be seen everywhere. These pits were originally filled with immortal spiritual energy. After these immortal spiritual energy lands were sucked into Ji Fei's inner world, large pits appeared where they used to be. The small pits on the ground were only a few li wide, while the big ones were several hundred li wide. The God of Life Spring and immortal spiritual energy lands were sucked into Ji Fei's inner world. The god race's holy ground lost its source of spiritual energy, causing the spiritual energy to dissipate. The vegetation inside the god race's holy ground began to wither from the outside. Under the corrosion of the aura of death, the plants inside the god race's holy ground began to lose its vitality. The last pure land in the world of death was losing its vitality. The aura of death outside the god race's holy ground grew stronger and stronger. The number of dead creatures gathered outside also increased. However, even at this time, those dead creatures were still observing from the sidelines. The god race had controlled the world of death for countless years. They were the strongest race among all the races in the world of death. They were the true rulers of hell. No one dared to challenge the god race's authority. Not a single dead creature dared to enter the god race's holy ground. The god race seemed to have undergone a great change, but their deterrence didn't diminish in the slightest. Who cares what those two bald donkeys are plotting in the dark? Since they dare to scheme behind our backs, we'll join forces with that Ying Tian to annihilate them, Ji Fei said angrily. He pondered for a long time, but still couldn't think of a good solution. He really didn't want to be ambushed by that little monk Fan Xiu at this critical moment. However, he was in the open, while that little monk Fan Xiu was hiding in the dark. Then, Ji Fei began to transmit his voice to the Supreme Emperor who was peeping outside the god race's holy ground. Soon, the Supreme Emperor of the Undying Skeleton clan arrived at the mountain peak where Jiyu Fei was located with a white skeleton. That white skeleton was the same skeleton that walked the same path as He Tian's brother. Jiyu Fei discovered that this brother of He Tian's wasn't in a good state. His cultivation base seemed to be fluctuating, hovering between the monarch realm and the sovereign realm. It was very strange. This white skeleton's advancement was far worse than He Tian's. The soul fires inside the white skeleton's skulls were still shrouded in death qi. It was difficult to purify them completely. After the Supreme Emperor of the Undying Skeleton clan arrived, the Supreme Emperor of the Nether tribe and the newly appointed Supreme Corpse Emperor also arrived. "Greetings, Lord." The three Supreme Emperors and the white skeleton respectfully bowed to Jiyu Fei standing on the mountain peak. They had chosen to submit to Jiyu Fei. If it weren't for Jiyu Fei summoning them with his voice transmission, they wouldn't have dared to step into this last pure land. Jiyu Fei nodded, then said, "Immediately pass down my order. Even if you have to turn the entire purgatory realm upside down, you must find those two bald donkeys." "Yes." The three Supreme Emperors hurriedly accepted the order, then directly sent out their voice transmission. Soon, the dead creatures gathered outside the god race's holy ground started to stir. The Undying Skeleton clan, the Nether tribe, and the Corpse race, these three powerful races' dead creatures began to move. Chapter 646. The Supreme Emperors of the Undying Skeleton clan, Netherworld clan, and Corpse clan had all left. All the undead creatures in the world of death were on the move in order to find the little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk. However, after several days, there was still no news. In the holy land of the god race, Jiyu Fei sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. Beside him stood a white skeleton named Bai Yang. He Tian was in seclusion in Jiyu Fei's inner world, so Bai Yang was temporarily at Jiyu Fei's side. He ran errands for Jiyu Fei, and from time to time, he would go out to inquire about news. Jiyu Fei carefully examined Bai Yang's condition. He was surprised to find that Bai Yang had reached the critical moment of completely purifying the aura of death contained in his soul. His cultivation realm was fluctuating, very unstable. This was also the reason why his current condition was like nirvana, very dangerous. After the aura of death faded, he would welcome a new life. He Tian had walked on this path of transformation that reversed life and death. This Bai Yang had also embarked on this path. To purify the aura of death entangled in the soul was not difficult. As long as one continuously tempered it with life essence, it would be fine. However, in the world of death, there was not much life essence. Moreover, Jiyu Fei did not intend to help Bai Yang. The spiritual energy in the holy land of the god race gradually dissipated, but the sun in the sky was still bright, sprinkling down endless sunlight on the earth. The sunlight in the Holy Land did not make Bai Yang feel uncomfortable. Bai Yang's bone body did not have anything extraordinary, just like ordinary bones. Only the soul fire in the skull emitted soul fluctuations that were sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Bai Yang's soul fire was sometimes dazzling, causing the sun in the sky to lose its color. Other times, it was dim, as if it was about to be extinguished. After several days, there was still no news from the outside. Jiyu Fei could not help but admire the little monk Fan Xiu. This guy was really good at hiding. One night, a loud sound suddenly came from the direction of the demon sealing land. Then, a terrifying demonic aura suddenly erupted and spread throughout the world. Rumble, the heavens and earth shook as if 10,000 horses were galloping, or as if muffled thunder from the highest heavens. In the land of devil sealing, the winds and clouds changed color. Demonic energy soared into the sky, and an enormous black shadow towered between the heavens and earth, like an ancient giant, roaring to the heavens. Roar. The roar spread throughout the entire Naraka realm. Sensing that terrifying and powerful demonic aura, all the undead creatures trembled in fear. Jiyu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on the peak of the mountain, opened his eyes. It's time. He stood up, looking in the direction of the land of devil sealing. The Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian, had successfully refined the devil souls and reformed them. Next, it was time to attack the land of the 9 dragons competing pearls. The energy fluctuations of the demonic path shook the heavens and the earth. Even in the holy land of the god race, one could still feel the power and terror of that power. Ying Tian's continuous increase in strength was definitely not a good thing for Ji Yufei. At this time, Ji Yufei suddenly felt a tremor in his dantian as a surge of origin energy surged out from his dantian. Ji Yufei couldn't help but be taken aback. Someone was shaking his inner world. At this time, Ji Yufei's inner world was in complete chaos. Demonic energy soared to the sky, the earth quaked, and the sky swayed as if a sun was about to fall from the sky. Ha ha! I've finally recovered my old cultivation. A ghastly howl of laughter resounded in Ji Yufei's inner world. Boom! A giant dragon soared to the sky, exuding boundless demonic energy fluctuations. The violent energy caused the heavens and earth to pale in comparison. In the eastern domain, the god race experts were panic-stricken. Even the god race patriarch Li Jingxie and hierarch Li Fan were visibly shaken. The boundless demonic energy that came from afar shook the sacred mountain hovering high in the sky. The entire sacred mountain was affected, and ancient immortal runes began to appear on its surface. That old monster! The god race patriarch Li Jingxie stood at the peak of the sacred mountain, gazing at the giant dragon in the sky with a solemn expression. Who would have thought? Hierarch Li Fan sighed. Li Sheng, who was on good terms with the old tortoise, couldn't help but smile at this scene. The other god race experts, on the other hand, were panic-stricken. When did this scourge become so powerful? Recalling the scene of the old tortoise and Hei Tian wreaking havoc on the god race's sacred ground, the god race experts couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. This old monster had broken through. His cultivation was high, and his strength was formidable. Apart from the old ancestor, no one else in the god race could contend against him. No one could restrain this old monster. What should they do? The god race experts knew that their days in the future were not going to be easy. Swoosh! Ji Yufei broke through the void and directly appeared in his inner world. A dragon? This? Ji Yufei was dumbfounded when he saw the giant dragon circling high in the sky. What was going on? How did the old tortoise turn into a giant dragon? The old tortoise's original form should be a dragon tortoise. Ha ha! Brat, I did it. The giant dragon spoke in a human voice, its voice echoing through the sky and the earth. Even though they were very far away, the members of the celestial race on the celestial race's sacred mountain still felt their blood boiling. The vast sound had impacted them. Boom! With a loud quake, the purple giant dragon suddenly emitted a bright demonic light. The giant dragon was transforming, and then, a black tortoise the size of a mountain appeared high in the sky. The tortoise had a dragon's head and a tortoise's body. The aura of a divine beast was mighty. There were many immortal birds in Ji Yufei's inner world. When these immortal birds sensed the aura of a divine beast, they all crouched on the ground and trembled in fear. Boom! There was another loud quake. In the demonic light, the mountain-like tortoise shadow changed again. A giant dragon appeared high in the sky and circled high in the sky. The old tortoise continued to transform between the giant dragon and the black tortoise. It was extremely powerful, and terrifying demonic power constantly surged from the old tortoise's body. Good, good, good. Ha ha! Ji Yufei laughed. The old tortoise had successfully broken through. Ji Yufei sensed that the old tortoise's strength was no less than his. The old tortoise's breakthrough was too timely. The old tortoise's body was constantly transforming. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Every transformation seemed to break some kind of seal. The mighty energy fluctuations from the old tortoise's body were also constantly increasing. Rumble! The powerful force caused the void to collapse. The mighty aftershock also caused the mountains below to collapse. The sound produced by the old tortoise was very terrifying. It could be said that the sky and the earth were falling apart. The entire inner world was impacted. Ji Yufei hurriedly took out 5 extreme Dao divine weapons to suppress the surroundings and stabilize the violently shaking heaven and earth. Otherwise, this side of heaven and earth might be destroyed. Chapter 647. Inside Ji Yufei's supreme immortal physique, dragon roars shook the sky. The old turtle's cultivation had finally recovered to the almighty realm. The mighty power of the almighty realm spread out in all directions as demonic energy soared to the sky. High up in the sky, the old turtle's body was constantly changing. Sometimes, it was a dragon soaring in the sky, and sometimes, it was a black turtle roaring. The vast and terrifying pressure caused the souls of others to tremble in fear. Fortunately, this part of the world was extremely sturdy after being refined by its previous master. Additionally, Gu Fei used 5 supreme sacred treasures to suppress the 8 directions, preventing the old turtle from destroying this part of the world. Almighty demon race. Gu Fei stood in the sky. His eyes flashed like stars. The old turtle's strength had increased to an unbelievable level. Gu Fei asked himself, even if he seized Li Xuandao's Dao fruit and inherited Li Xuandao's immortal power as well as the various immortal techniques, it would still be difficult for him to suppress the old turtle. All below the almighty realm were ants. The old turtle's breakthrough was akin to ascending to the heavens in one step. From now on, he could look down on all beings and become an almighty realm cultivator second only to the extreme Dao cultivators. At this time, if the old turtle wanted to kill Li Jingxie and the others, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. The inner world seemed to have no advantage in a battle between almighty realm cultivators. Old Tortoise's supreme demonic body changed between the giant dragon and the black tortoise 9 times. Then, in the boundless demonic light, the giant dragon and the black tortoise seemed to merge together, and a stalwart figure walked out of the demonic light. The vast and terrifying aura in the world began to recede like the tide. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief as the feeling of being pressed down by a mountain quickly disappeared. Ha ha, the old tortoise laughed and took a step forward. In the next moment, he appeared before Gu Fei. The old tortoise was wearing a purple robe and a dragon crown on his head. He looked majestic and had the aura of an emperor. His aura had changed greatly. Although he was standing in front of Gu Fei, it was as if he had become one with this part of the world. Every move he made was filled with the flow of the great Tao. At this level, the old tortoise no longer needed to draw the demon clan's divine runes to borrow the power of heaven and earth. He could directly draw the power of heaven and earth for his own use. He was almost the embodiment of heaven and earth. With the power of the Tao on his body, going against him was equivalent to going against the heavens and earth. Right now, the old turtle only had scruples about supreme mighty figures and extreme masters. Stinking brat, my words carry enormous weight. From now on, I will protect you for 1,000 years. The old tortoise said. His words naturally revealed a sense of dignity. As long as the supreme almighty and extreme Tao powerhouses did not appear, he no longer had any scruples. Far in the distance, when the gods' race heard the words of the old tortoise, they were a little displeased. To think that this fella would dare to speak to their old ancestor in such a manner. This was simply too insolent. No one in the Shun clan could see that their great ancestor was no longer the original great ancestor. No one could see that Gu Fei was a fake who controlled Li Xuandao's eye. Very good. Gu Fei nodded. He was also very happy. With the old tortoise's protection, he might not even need 1,000 years to break through to the mighty realm. Then, with a wave of his hand, Gu Fei kept the 5 supreme treasures. Hee hee. Stinking brat, the grand sovereign seal is mine. As he spoke, the old tortoise directly disappeared into the void. Soon, the area where the grand sovereign seal was located erupted with a towering demonic aura. This old tortoise. Gu Fei could not help but be startled. He thought that this fella was a little too impatient. He had just broken through and was already refining the demon clan's supreme sacred treasure. Just as the old tortoise was about to refine the grand sovereign seal impatiently, an extremely powerful soul wave was transmitted from another direction in the inner world. Ha ha! Emperor Realm, I've broken through. I've finally broken through. Those 7 girls who bullied me, just you wait. Hey Tian, I'm going to find you now to talk about life and reason, waha. This was not a voice, but a soul fluctuation. The powerful soul fluctuation surged between heaven and earth. Hey Tian's words rang in everyone's hearts. It's that lecherous skeleton. On the sacred mountain of the Shun clan, the 7 fairies immediately turned pale when they felt the soul fluctuation. They had once taught He Tian a lesson. These 7 fairies still thought that the person who peeped on them was He Tian. Therefore, the 7 fairies branded He Tian as a despicable, shameless, vulgar, and lecherous person. "What the hell are you shouting for? What's so great about Emperor Realm cultivation?" A disdainful voice came from the sacred mountain of the Shun clan. Someone did not take He Tian seriously. Roar. "Who is it? Get out here." He Tian rushed out from his seclusion. The power of yin and yang surged, and the soul fire in his skull was as bright as the sun. The power of yin and yang surged on He Tian's skeleton. Black and white divine lights circulated on his yin and yang skeleton, emitting a trace of Dao charm. Ji Fei could not help but rejoice when he saw this scene. He Tian had also broken through. That level of soul fluctuation was enough to show that He Tian was already an Emperor Realm expert. "Reckless guy, do you want to challenge me?" The voice from before rang out on the sacred mountain again. The cold words revealed an undisguised killing intent. Then, a figure rushed out from the sacred mountain and arrived in front of He Tian in the blink of an eye. He stopped in the void and stared coldly at He Tian. It's you." The moment Erebus saw this person, he was immediately stunned. His insufferably arrogant aura immediately dissipated and disappeared. Emperor. An undead in the immortal realm was stronger than an immortal realm expert, but weaker than a divine king. An Emperor Realm undead was definitely not a match for a divine king. "It's me," the person coldly said. He looked at He Tian as if he was looking at a dead man. There was no trace of emotion in his eyes, as if he would kill He Tian at any time. "Li Zun, come back." Patriarch Li Jingxie's voice came from the peak of the sacred mountain. The goddesses of the divine race were noble and holy. They could not be blasphemed. He Tian's words had completely offended the pursuers of the 7th fairy. The 7th fairy had many pursuers. However, among all the pursuers of the 7 fairies, only divine King Li Zun dared to step out. "Patriarch, please let me teach this thing a lesson." Li Zun had always looked down on the undead creatures of the world of death. Therefore, he had always found He Tian to be an eyesore. Today, he would take this opportunity to teach this disgusting undead skeleton a lesson. Li Zun was well aware of He Tian's actions. He dared to peep at the goddesses bathing. Just this crime alone was enough for Li Zun to kill He Tian. "Li Zun, you dare to disobey my order?" The patriarch of the god race, Li Jingxie, roared in anger. Although Li Zun was his descendant, this Erebus had recently been very close to the old ancestor. If Li Zun were to offend Erebus, the old ancestor would definitely be unhappy. Li Jingxie had some misgivings. Li Zun couldn't help but turn to look at the sacred mountain. Then, he coldly stared at He Tian and said, "Consider yourself lucky. The next time you run into my hands, you won't be so lucky." Disobeying the patriarch's order could be a big or small crime. If the other 2 branches got hold of this, it would be very troublesome. Li Zun wasn't a fool. Although his temper was a bit irritable, he wasn't the kind of person who would ignore everything and do anything when his head was hot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate to the God King realm. God King Li Zun retreated unwillingly. He couldn't ignore the patriarch's order. "Don't be so arrogant. Keep a low profile, understand?" Ji Fei couldn't help but shake his head after witnessing this scene. Then, he transmitted his voice to He Tian. "Yes, big brother." He Tian replied to Ji Fei. "Come with me. Let's meet your old friend," Ji Fei said as he directly opened his inner world and walked out. He Tian hastily followed. "Old friend? Who is it?" Very soon, He Tian's doubts were answered. He Tian saw his old friend on a mountain peak in the divine race's holy land. "Bai Yang, why are you here?" He Tian asked in surprise. Undying skeleton Bai Yang rushed forward and hugged He Tian, then said, "All the undead creatures in the world of death have submitted to the Great Lord. What's so strange about me appearing here?" The Great Lord Bai Yang mentioned was, of course, Ji Fei. As soon as he came out from his inner world, Ji Fei immediately sensed something. He said to He Tian and Bai Yang, You two chat, I'll be leaving for a while. With that said, Jiu Fei's figure disappeared into the void. When he reappeared, Jiu Fei intercepted a demonic figure that was entering the divine race's holy land. Ying Tian, you're here. Jiu Fei wasn't surprised to see the newcomer. The Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian's demonic soul had been successfully reformed. His arrival was only a matter of time. Jiu Fei could feel that Ying Tian's aura was different from before. The demonic energy he exuded had become extremely obscure, almost undetectable. Noticing Ying Tian's change, Jiu Fei couldn't help feeling a chill in his heart. Perhaps only a supreme expert could sense that Ying Tian was a devil from his aura. Ying Tian looked at Jiu Fei indifferently, speaking after a long time. Are you ready? I'm ready, but those two bald donkeys hiding in the shadows make me feel uneasy. Jiu Fei said. Little monk Fan Shou's absence caused Jiu Fei to feel apprehensive. There's no need to worry. If they dare to show themselves, you and I can join hands and annihilate them. The Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian said coldly. Very good, let's begin. A smile suddenly appeared on Jiu Fei's face. The final moment was finally about to begin. He hoped that the old tortoise could refine the Grand Sovereign Seal as soon as possible. The old tortoise would be Jiu Fei's secret weapon. No one knew that the old tortoise had broken through to the supreme expert realm. This would be Jiu Fei's final trump card. At the most crucial moment, the old tortoise would suddenly appear. Even if it couldn't kill the old devil and little monk Fan Shou, it would definitely throw them into chaos. Chapter 648. There wasn't a trace of light in the dusky world. There weren't any stars in the sky. It was like a bottomless abyss where one couldn't see the end of the darkness. In the sky, there were black or grey clouds and death aura. There wasn't a trace of vitality. This was an absolute world of death, a world without life. The world was silent. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. It was full of oppression. Suddenly, a long howl came from the depths of the world of death and spread in all directions. Moreover, this howl didn't stop and didn't show any signs of weakening. Moreover, this howl was gradually getting stronger. Finally, it spread to every corner of the world of death from the depths of the world of death. There was a soul fluctuation in the howl. The Supreme Emperor of the world of death was summoning all the undead creatures in the world of death. The silent ground began to emit soul fluctuations. The undead creatures that were hiding somewhere started to walk out of their hiding places. Skeletons broke through the ground one after another, and skeletal hands reached out from the ground. Catcher, catcher, catcher. The bone-chilling sound of bones colliding and rubbing against each other rang out. Countless undead skeletons started to walk towards the depths of the world of death. On the vast land, countless white skeletons were moving in the dusky world. This was a shocking scene. The skulls of the white skeletons flickered with soul flames. They were like stars twinkling on the ground. Then, two powerful soul fluctuations came from the depths of the world of death. The mountain ranges and valleys in the world of death that were shrouded in yin aura began to shake. Especially in the area where the Earth's yin vein was located, corpse aura and ghost aura burst out. Countless evil spirits and ghosts started to rush out from the yin mountains and valleys. They carried endless ghost aura and flew towards the depths of the world of death. In the area shrouded in corpse aura, evil corpses that were shrouded in corpse aura walked out. All the undead creatures were heading towards the depths of the world of death. As they walked into the depths of the world of death, the entire world of death suddenly became chaotic and ghostly shadows collided. In the depths of the world of death, there was a supreme emperor summoning the undead creatures. The Naraka realm was about to undergo an unprecedented change. The language of the God clan was about to come true. The God race's holy land, once the center of the world of death, was completely shrouded in the aura of death at this time. The vibrant vegetation had withered and turned yellow. The spiritual energy had dissipated, and the holy land of the God race had become a dead zone. Here, there were no longer any living beings. Dried rivers, bottomless lakes, and abandoned palaces could be seen everywhere. In the central region of the celestial race's holy land, there was a huge mountain. This mountain was the tallest mountain in the celestial race's holy land. Originally, There were many people from the celestial race who cultivated on this mountain. But now, not a single god could be seen here. At the peak of the mountain stood 3 terrifying figures. Every single one of them emitted terrifying energy ripples, causing the peak of the mountain to be filled with a vast death chi, ghost chi, and soul energy. The long howls and soul fluctuations came from the 3 blurry figures. The entire mountain trembled slightly. The sky above the mountain changed color. Transparent ripples that could be seen by the naked eye appeared in the void. The 3 supreme emperors were summoning all the undead creatures in this world of death. Countless undead creatures began to walk into the god race's holy land, gathering at the mountain's location. At the foot of the mountain, there were already many powerful undead creatures. There were bone dragons the size of small hills, ferocious skeletons with lion heads and human bodies, and horned strange beasts that were several dozen jong tall, exuding a nauseating stench of decay. Powerful soul fluctuations rippled around the mountain. After receiving the summons, powerful undead creatures had already gathered near the mountain. Hundreds of King Realm undead creatures gathered together, forming a horrifying baleful aura that caused the world to lose its color. The soul fluctuations were as vast as the sea. Outside the 9 dragons competing for the Pearl Pilously Fierce Land, 2 figures stood on a mountain peak. One was clad in black, the other in white. Both of them were peerless characters that people would never forget after a single glance. These 2 people were Jiyu Fei and the Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian. After snatching Li Xuandao's Dao fruit, Jiyu Fei's peerless physique was shrouded in immortal energy. He stood on the mountain peak, his white robes fluttering in the wind as if he could disappear with the wind at any moment. Ying Tian, who stood beside Jiyu Fei, was like a bottomless devil's nest, as if he was a peerless devil king that could swallow the heavens and devour the earth. Ying Tian's newly reformed demonic physique was constantly absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy. Although he was hovering in the air, if one didn't look at him with their naked eyes, they wouldn't be able to sense his existence. One was a peerless heavenly immortal, the other a peerless devil king. It was impossible for 2 people to walk together, but now, for the sake of a common goal, they were walking together. There were no eternal enemies in this world, nor were there eternal friends. Jiyu Fei and He Tian were looking at the tall mountain in the distance. They were waiting for the arrival of the army of death. Attacking the place where the 9 dragons fight for the pearl would definitely require cannon fodder. It was impossible for Jiyu Fei to let the celestial race become cannon fodder. The celestial race was definitely an incomparably powerful force. If the celestial race appeared in the Tinglong continent, the cultivation world of the Tinglong continent would probably belong to the immortal Dao. Even the weakest of the divine race was an immortal god R. Immortals and immortals were extinct on the Tinglong continent. One could imagine the consequences if the divine race appeared on the Tinglong continent. This was a supreme force that Jiyu Fei could control. He didn't want this force to suffer any damage in the battle for the 9 dragons' fight for the pearl. The 9 dragons' fight for the pearl was an extremely dangerous place. Even if the entire divine race attacked, they wouldn't be able to cause a ripple. Jiyu Fei wasn't a fool, he wouldn't do something so foolish. Using such a vast amount of soul force as cannon fodder, what a pity, Ying Tian said indifferently. To any cultivator, soul force was the purest form of energy. Hearing that, Jiyu Fei said disdainfully, if it's such a pity, why don't you go in and take a look yourself? Humph. If I had my previous cultivation, would I still need you to remind me? The Earth Demonic Lord snorted. He was an innate god born from heaven and earth. Even the Supreme Tao Ancestor, the heaven-defying martial ancestor, the Millennium Buddhist Lord, these world-shaking existences. Extreme Tao characters could be said to be the Earth Demonic Lord's descendants. Only innate true gods were similar to the Earth Demonic Lord, born from heaven and earth. They were innate gods with unparalleled strength and power. No one knew what happened in the past. 10,000 years ago seemed to be a blank slate. Even the oldest records didn't mention a single word about it. Immortals and gods were extinct. The innate true gods and great devils that roamed the heavens and earth had all disappeared. Even the extreme Tao experts that had comprehended the Tao and were comparable to innate gods had disappeared. Ji Fei really wanted to know what happened 10,000 years ago. Ying Tian was an innate great devil. He definitely knew the secrets of heaven and earth 10,000 years ago, but Ji Fei didn't ask. Ying Tian was jointly sealed in the Hell Dao by the Supreme Dao Ancestor and the Millennium Buddhist Lord. After countless years of wear and tear, Ying Tian was extremely weak. Even so, the Earth Demonic Lord Ying Tian couldn't be underestimated. Che. If you had your previous cultivation and strength, I would have run as far away as I could. Ji Fei thought to himself, innate gods were strong enough to give even an extreme Dao expert a headache. A great devil doesn't boast about his past glory. Ji Fei mocked. Ying Tian wasn't angered by Huang Xiaolong's words. Instead, he said indifferently, I wonder if that little baldy is here or not. That little baldy has obtained the Buddha's inheritance. If you're tricked by him, I'll have one less opponent. Ying Tian didn't intend to talk about the past. It seemed like Ji Fei's provocation had lost its effect. He. If the one he tricked wasn't me, wouldn't I have one less opponent to fight for this world? Ji Fei laughed. The little monk Fan Xiu was a potential threat. Although Ying Tian had successfully reformed his devil soul, his strength was still at the supreme expert realm, not necessarily stronger than Ji Fei. If the little monk Fan Xiu suddenly attacked the two of them, he might really be able to heavily injure them. Neither Ji Fei nor Ying Tian dared to be careless. The little monk Fan Xiu who had obtained the Buddha's inheritance was definitely a ruthless character. Ying Tian did not say another word. He stood quietly on the mountain peak, watching the sea of undead creatures converging on the towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. This was definitely the strongest undead army between heaven and earth. All the undying skeletons, evil spirits, evil corpses, and so on, as long as they were creatures of the dead, they were gathering from all directions. All the dead creatures were summoned by the three supreme emperors, walking into the depths of the world of death. The ground was densely packed with them, and the sky was also densely packed with them. Countless dead creatures that could fly circled around the mountain. The three supreme emperors' summoning of the dead creatures from the world of death lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Around the mountain, a radius of several hundred li was filled with dead creatures. Ghost chi, corpse chi, death chi, all kinds of majestic aura gathered from the endless dead creatures. The soul fluctuations formed from them were as vast as the sea. Even the Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian, couldn't help but be moved. If he could absorb this soul force, he would definitely be able to recover to his previous invincible cultivation. However, Ying Tian nonchalantly glanced at Ji Fei beside him and saw that Ji Fei was still as calm as before. Could it be that this brat isn't tempted by such a powerful force? Ying Tian couldn't help feeling suspicious. Chapter 649. The world of death was vast and boundless. It was like a real world. Although the creatures of death had entered the depths of the purgatory realm from all directions after being summoned by the Supreme Emperor, it was difficult for all of them to enter the purgatory realm in a short period of time. The undead creatures from the outer regions of the Hell Dao would need to spend a lot of time to enter the depths. To Ji Fei and the Earth Demon Lord, time was the least valuable thing. They could wait, they weren't in a hurry. Attacking the 9 Dragons competition for the pearl wasn't something that could be rushed. On top of the mountain in the depths of the world of death, the 3 supreme sovereigns sent out soul waves and howls. The soul waves spread throughout the Hell Dao, summoning all the undead creatures in the Hell Dao. Gathering all the undead creatures in the Hell Dao wasn't something that could be done overnight. This process lasted for half a year. When almost all the undead creatures from the outer regions of the Hell Dao had entered the depths of the world of death, the soul waves from the depths of the Hell Dao gradually weakened and finally disappeared. Swoosh, swoosh. Ji Fei and Ying Tian appeared on the tallest mountain in the god race's sacred land at the same time, descending upon the mountain's summit like 2 supreme sovereigns. Immortal Dao energy and fiendish demonic energy surged at the mountain's summit. The 3 supreme sovereigns had long since stopped summoning, prostrating on the ground. Soul power surged around the mountain, covering it in corpse energy, ghost energy, and death energy. Within the ashen corpse energy, powerful corpse kings roared and howled. The pitch-black ghost energy exuded a sinister and terrifying aura. Countless illusory silhouettes flickered within. The area shrouded in death energy was densely packed with undying skeletons. Their soul fires flickered in the death energy as if reflecting on themselves, stretching as far as the eye could see. In the past half a year, almost all the undead creatures had entered the depths of the world of death, gathering within a radius of 10,000 li around the mountain. It had to be said that the Hell Dao had collected far too many vile souls and malevolent wraiths over the years. Pitch-black ghost energy covered half the sky. Who knew how many powerful wraiths there were amidst the eerie ghost energy? Regardless of whether it was the ferocious spirits, the undying skeletons, or the infernal corpses, all of them possessed soul power. At this time, the soul power that had gathered in the vicinity of the mountain had reached a level that could make even mighty figures go crazy. "Get up." Jiyu Fei stood in the void above the mountain peak and said to the three supreme emperors who were kneeling on the ground below. Yes. Only then did the three supreme emperors dare to get up from the ground and respectfully retreat to the side. "Haha, how about we split the soul force here?" Ying Tian laughed heartily as he said to Jiyu Fei. The soul force condensed from the endless dead creatures made his eyes red with envy. Jiyu Fei sneered, then said indifferently, "I didn't order them to summon undead creatures to provide you with soul power." Sigh. What a pity. Ying Tian sighed. If he could absorb all the soul force from the dead creatures gathered around the mountain, he would definitely be able to regain his invincible cultivation and strength. However, Ying Tian knew that if he wanted to break through the battle for the Pearl of the Nine Dragons, break the most terrifying killing formation between the heavens and earth, he had to make use of this force. "Begin," Jiyu Fei said. Then, 5 rays of divine light shot out from his body. Within the 5 rays of divine light, there were 5 supreme saint weapons. The aura of the saint weapons immediately spread out, causing the undead creatures that sensed the aura of the saint weapons to tremble in fear. The weaker undead creatures immediately prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Bang! After the 5 saint weapons soared into the sky, they suddenly shook violently, causing the sky to tremble violently as if it was about to collapse. The mountain and river cauldron emitted primordial chaos chi, shattering the void as it soared toward the east. The Three Realms Buddhist lamp emitted a resplendent tricolored Buddhist glow, illuminating the dark sky as it flew toward the west. The purple-gold divine sword turned into a giant purple dragon, emitting an unparalleled sword chi that tore the void apart as it soared toward the south. The Sanskrit Buddhist bell chimed, as if countless Buddhas were chanting scriptures. The sound of Sanskrit lingered between the heavens and earth, adding a sense of peace to the murderous atmosphere. This saint weapon of Buddhism also flew toward the west, and together with the Three Realms Buddhist lamp, it hovered in the western sky. The remaining half of the peerless ominous saber emitted a domineering and extremely sharp saber radiance that followed closely behind the purple-gold divine sword, rushing toward the south. At this moment, the 5 saint weapons all displayed a trace of the divine might of the extreme Tao. Countless undead creatures were terrified under the might of the 5 saint weapons. Even the supreme emperor of the 3 creatures of death on the mountain peak felt a great pressure. The supreme emperor of the nether race and the supreme emperor of the corpse race could no longer bear the terrifying pressure emitted by the 5 saint weapons of extreme Wei. They knelt on the ground and showed signs of collapsing. Only the supreme emperor of the undead skeleton tribe was still able to stand, because there was a bone bead that emitted a hazy brilliance above his head. This bone bead contained a great amount of power, able to counteract the majority of the might of the 5 saint weapons. This fact surprised even Jiyu Fei. Could this bone bead be the weapon refined by the undead skeleton tribe's supreme expert that successfully reversed life and death, regenerating his flesh and blood? Half a precious treasure. Ying Tian looked down at the bone bead hovering above the supreme emperor of the undead skeleton tribe's supreme emperor's head. Half a precious treasure. Could it be that the undead skeleton tribe's supreme expert that slaughtered his way into the god race's holy land was able to refine half a precious treasure? Didn't that mean that this supreme expert's strength and cultivation neared the extreme Tao? Thinking of this, Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be moved. Most likely, only this kind of ruthless expert that was infinitely close to the extreme Tao realm could slaughter his way into the god race's holy land, perhaps even into the Nine Dragons Battle Pearl. Of course, no matter how powerful that ruthless expert was, there was only one ending for him after entering the Nine Dragons Battle Pearl: death, completely devoured by the Nine Dragons Battle Pearl. Even if Ji Yufei snatched Li Xuandao's Dao fruit, gaining the cultivation and strength of an immortal Dao Supreme expert, even with the protection of a saint weapon, he still wouldn't dare to enter the Nine Dragons Battle Pearl carelessly. Even the Earth Demon Lord Ying Tian, who had reformed his devil soul, didn't dare to take the risk. The Nine Dragons Battle Pearl was enough to annihilate all experts below the extreme Dao realm. Even supreme experts that entered would die with regret. Rumble, 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 the mountain and river cauldron descended from the sky, crushing down on the undead creatures below. Then, soul force soared into the sky, entering the mountain and river cauldron. The Buddhist lamp of the three realms illuminated the world. The Sanskrit Buddhist bell rang out melodiously. Countless creatures of the dead below howled. Amidst the Buddhist light and the ringing of the bell, countless creatures of the dead struggled. Streams of soul power floated out and shot up into the sky, entering the Buddhist lamp and bell. The peerless ominous saber and the purple gold divine sword also combined, cutting through the void, crushing countless undead creatures, and rapidly devouring the endless soul force. The entire Naraka realm was shaking. The 5 extreme Dao sage weapons shattered the void. More than half of the undead creatures in 3 directions were killed instantly. Ji Yufei was using his supreme soul force to refine the 5 saint weapons, allowing them to display their true extreme Dao divine might. Chapter 650. The 5 extreme divine weapons occupied the east, west, and south directions. The mountain and river cauldron emitted misty primordial chaos chi, which pressed down from the sky like 100,000 ancient divine mountains. Rumble, as the mountain and river cauldron pressed down, the void collapsed and the sky trembled. The mighty force directly shattered the earth. Countless soul power soared into the sky and entered the mountain and river cauldron. As if the chaos had opened up the sky, the area within 100 miles of the mountain and river cauldron instantly collapsed and turned into a chaotic void. Countless dead creatures were smashed into pieces and their bodies turned into dust. Only their soul power was restrained. Billowing dust rushed up to the sky. The mountain and river cauldron swallowed the endless soul power, and the cauldron's soul emitted a joyful soul fluctuation. Gradually, a world seemed to appear above the mountain and river cauldron. The countless ancient beasts on the body of the cauldron seemed to have come to life, emitting an extremely horrifying aura. Roar, 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 roar. 4 earth-shattering roars came from the mountain and river cauldron. 4 extremely powerful beast souls rushed out from the mountain and river cauldron. The azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise appeared around the mountain and river cauldron. The 4 beast souls of the mythical beasts were awakened again. Although the 4 mythical beasts did not have a physical body, the soul fluctuation they emitted was like a vast ocean. The azure dragon danced in the sky, constantly swallowing the soul power. The vermilion bird mythological beast swooped down from the sky with divine flames covering the entire sky. The undead creatures on the ground were instantly burned to ashes, and their soul power was all devoured by the vermilion bird mythological beast. The white tiger roared, and a divine wind suddenly swept over the endless soul power and swallowed it. The black tortoise controlled the power of water. Water filled the sky, and the dead creatures fell down in large numbers. The power of water penetrated into their skulls and imprisoned their souls. Then, the ancient beast souls started to appear from the body of the mountain and river cauldron, and joined in the devouring of the soul power. Suddenly, the roars of the beasts were earth-shattering. Boom! After devouring an endless amount of soul power, the mountain river cauldron shook violently, and the entire hell realm started to shake randomly. The divine might of the extreme Tao started to show, and the terrifying power caused a part of the world to turn into nothingness. Countless prehistoric beasts roared at the sky, shattering the void space. Streams of pure soul energy started to activate the extreme divine might of the mountain and river cauldron. The terrifying pressure caused even the heavens and earth to tremble. The extreme divine might was unstoppable. Sensing this pressure, all the undead creatures prostrated on the ground. The weaker ones directly shattered their bodies. Their soul power was sucked out and gathered in the mountain river cauldron. Even the king undead creatures were pressed against the mountain, unable to straighten their backs. Of the 3 supreme rulers on the mountain peak, 2 of them were already using their hands to support themselves. They were struggling to keep their bodies from falling to the ground. Even the supreme emperor of the undying skeleton clan, who had half a supreme treasure, knelt on one knee. His bones crackled, and the bone bead floating above his head vibrated and almost fell from the sky. Is this the true extreme divine might? Jiyu Fei stood high in the sky. The terrifying pressure from the mountain and river cauldron made him feel like he was being crushed by an ancient divine mountain. He had no choice but to circulate his immortal Tao God force to resist it. Extreme divine might? That's still far from it. The Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian, stared at the giant cauldron slowly descending from the sky. Following that, a demonic diagram rushed out from his body and flew towards the northern side of the mountain. It rapidly grew in size, and in the end, it actually enveloped the entire area. On the devil diagram, a hazy world appeared. Endless demonic aura surged out from it, as if the devil diagram was a terrifying realm of devils. Boom! Endless demonic aura surged out from the devil diagram, forming a pitch-black whirlpool. A heaven-devouring force emerged from the whirlpool. Countless undead creatures were immediately pulled up from the ground by the great suction force of the demonic diagram. They flew into the sky and directly entered the pitch-black vortex. The Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian, was also using his soul force to refine the devil diagram, allowing it to display its extreme divine might. The earth was densely packed with the summoned dead creatures. Countless dead creatures were sucked up into the sky. Their terrified soul fluctuations were surging between heaven and earth. Both Jiyu Fei and Ying Tian needed a large amount of soul force to activate the extreme divine might of the extreme divine treasures. The violet gold divine sword, the 3 realms Buddhist lamp, the Sanskrit Buddhist bell, and the half of the peerless saber, they were all peerless saint artifacts that had already given birth to artifact souls. Boundless soul energy could inject endless power into these peerless saint artifacts. As long as one's soul force was strong enough, a saint artifact could unleash a destructive power akin to an extreme Tao expert attacking with full force. The Battle of the 9 Dragons for the Pearl was known as the Purgatory Tao's #1 killing field, but it still couldn't stop an extreme Tao expert's footsteps. Countless undead creatures turned into dust. Their unimaginably powerful soul force was continuously devoured by the supreme saint artifacts. Between heaven and earth, the 6 supreme saint artifacts seemed to be the only thing left in the world. In the past half a year, the land within 10,000 li of the mountain was filled with undead creatures. It was hard to imagine how many undead creatures had gathered around the mountain. The soul force formed from so many undead creatures was heaven-defying. Bang! The entire path of hell shook violently once again. Another saint weapon had successfully unleashed the might of an extreme path. Its domineering presence filled every corner of the world at that moment. What surprised Jiyu Fei was that the saint artifact that activated its extreme divine might this time was the broken saber. The broken saber emitted a resplendent light that pierced the sky. Killing intent surged violently, with the saber as the center. It was like a giant black hole, madly devouring the soul force. Countless strands of soul energy could be seen converging together from all directions, and they were like numerous surging rivers that roared over with extremely shocking impetus. Tens of thousands of ghosts wailed in the area within 10,000 li of the mountain. This was the doomsday of the undead creatures. Apart from the powerful undead creatures above the king realm, the rest of the undead creatures had all become nourishment for the 6 supreme saint artifacts. In the north, the demonic clouds rolled violently. The demonic diagram that shrouded the entire north also began to display its extreme divine might. Below the demonic diagram, countless dark clouds gathered together and kept compressing. In the end, they condensed into many ferocious and terrifying demonic dragons that soared towards the demonic diagram like moths flying into a flame. The 6 supreme saint artifacts were like rivers flowing into the sea. They did not reject anything that came their way. Endless soul force was continuously absorbed by them. They were like 6 bottomless pits that devoured the soul force crazily. The entire purgatory Tao trembled because of them. The extreme divine might could destroy heaven and earth. Not even an extreme Tao expert could resist it. Countless souls let out scalp-numbing howls as the heaven and earth boiled. One after another, the Supreme Saint artifacts unleashed their extreme divine might. The Three Realms Buddhist lamp emitted a boundless tricolored Buddha luminescence in the air. Amidst the Buddha luminescence, boundless Buddhism energy condensed into the silhouette of a Buddha sitting cross-legged in the air, exuding an auspicious aura that dissipated the heavy killing intent, adding a sense of peace and tranquility to this world. The violet gold divine sword and the Sanskrit Buddhist bell also unleashed their extreme divine might. A melodious bell chime echoed throughout the entire purgatory Tao. A peaceful Buddhism energy filled the entire purgatory Tao. Wang. The violet gold divine sword that was as tall as a mountain pierced into the ground, trembling violently. Sword chi soared into the sky, shattering the void. The endless soul force was like a delicacy, causing it to cheer in excitement. How could the soul force condensed from all the dead creatures in the purgatory Tao be ordinary? If either Jiyu Fei or Ying Tian were to devour all of this soul force, their cultivation would rise to the extreme Tao realm. Unfortunately, neither Jiyu Fei nor Ying Tian could obtain this energy. They could only use it to activate the extreme Tao Saint artifact's extreme divine might. No one was willing to watch others grow stronger. If Jiyu Fei absorbed this energy, others would definitely make a move against him. If others wanted to devour this energy, Jiyu Fei would also make a move against them. Everyone had their reservations. The Buddhist Lord refined the purgatory Tao, which was why there were so many dead creatures. Could it be that the Buddhist Lord was planning to use the purgatory Tao to collect soul force, providing him with an endless supply of soul force? If that was the case, then this Buddhist Lord was too terrifying. Unfortunately, this energy was destined to be unobtainable. Even the little monk Fan Xiu, who had obtained the Buddhist Lord's inheritance, was powerless to stop Jiyu Fei and Ying Tian. As smart as the Buddhist Lord is, this time, all his efforts are in vain. The Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian commented. Both Jiyu Fei and Ying Tian were paying close attention to the surroundings. The little monk Fan Xiu hiding in the shadows made them feel pressured. Even at this time, the little monk still didn't show himself. His endurance was really too good. In the end, the little monk Fan Xiu still didn't show himself. After a day and a night, the soul power of the undead creatures summoned by the three supreme emperors was almost completely devoured. The 6 extreme Tao Saint artifacts' extreme divine might was enough to shatter a part of the world. If it weren't for Jiyu Fei and Ying Tian controlling the power of the extreme Tao Saint artifacts, the entire purgatory Tao would have been half destroyed. It's time. When the 6 extreme Tao Saint artifacts emitted a dazzling light, Jiyu Fei let out a loud shout. Under his control, the mountain and river cauldron, the violet gold divine sword, the Three Realms Buddhist lamp, the Brahma bell, and the ominous saber all soared into the sky, rushing toward the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. The demonic diagram also rushed up into the sky. It fluttered in the wind and quickly spread out, covering half of the sky. It shrouded the place where the 9 dragons were fighting for the pearl. It was as if it wanted to swallow the entire place into the demonic diagram. Chapter 651. The 6 extreme saint weapons displayed their supreme divine might, shaking the heavens and the earth and shattering the void. They charged directly into the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl, causing the silent and frightening number 1 ominous place of the Naraka realm to boil up in an instant. Rumble. The entire 9 dragons competing for the pearl began to tremble. The pitilessly ominous ground was affected by the impact and immediately reacted. It was as if there were 9 giant dragons turning over on the ground. Deep fissures began to appear on the ground. Formless killing light tore through the void and charged towards the extreme saint weapons that charged into the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl. The fissures in the ground surged with a towering dragon aura. In the sky above the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl, the formless killing light swept towards the mountain river cauldron from all directions. However, the mountain river cauldron was enveloped by the primordial chaos chi, and the formless killing light was completely blocked by the primordial chaos chi. It was the same for the other 4 extreme saint weapons. Although they were affected by the Great Formation, they still emitted boundless energy waves and slowly descended from the sky. Roar. Deep and terrifying roars sounded from the depths of the ground. It was as if the heavens and earth were about to collapse, and it was as if doomsday had arrived. The 9 meandering mountains that resembled giant dragons shook violently and emitted an earth-shattering dragon aura. It was actually showing signs of soaring into the sky. After the 6 extreme saint weapons charged into the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl, they were immediately impacted greatly and shook continuously. The power of the heavens and earth that was condensed in the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl emitted a destructive energy wave that obliterated the extreme saint weapons. Boom! The divine might of the extreme divine path collided with the power of the heavens and earth. The sky shattered and the earth cracked. Apart from the 9 dragon-like ancestral veins of the earth, the ground of the 9 dragons fighting over the pearl undulated violently like waves. The 6 extreme saint weapons pierced through the heavens and earth, causing the void to turn into a chaotic void. The divine might that they displayed was unstoppable. The extreme path saint weapon, which had absorbed an endless amount of soul energy, displayed a supreme extreme path divine might. Such power caused Jiu Fei, who was watching from afar, to be indescribably shocked. Such power was enough to kill almighties. Roar! 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 Terrifying roars came from the ground. The 9 earth ancestral veins were shaking. Endless earth draconic chi surged up. 9 giant dragons appeared and roared at the sky. That wasn't the real earth ancestral dragon, but a phantom formed by the endless earth dragon energy of the 9 earth ancestral veins. Although it wasn't an ancestral dragon, it was equivalent to an ancestral dragon. At this moment, apart from the central region where the Purgatory Path's world origin world bead was located, there was no other place left intact in the entire 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. The mountains formed by the 9 earth ancestor veins also cracked. Endless earth dragon chi surged out from the cracked mountains. The 9 mountains seemed to have a mind of their own, struggling on the ground as if they wanted to soar into the sky. It was as though 9 extremely terrifying heavenly beasts had been awakened from their slumber. 9 illusory dragons soared into the sky and charged towards the 6 extreme Tao Saint weapons, directly clashing with the extreme Tao Saint weapons' divine might. Rumble, the mountain and river cauldron, as large as a mountain, descended from the sky. Chaotic primordial chi surged. The azure dragon, vermilion bird, black tortoise, and white tiger, the 4 divine beast souls danced in the air. Countless ancient beasts roared. The fierce murderous aura shook the heavens and the earth. The 4 divine beast souls directly clashed with the giant dragons that rushed up from below. Boom! An earth-shattering rumble resounded as the 4 divine beasts collided with the dragon. Destructive energy surged out, and the space around them was directly transformed into a chaotic void. Buzz! The mountain and river cauldron shook and the 4 divine beast souls were sent flying. The giant dragons formed by the earth ancestor veins chi had actually shaken the mountain and river cauldron, which had displayed the extreme Tao Saint weapon power. This, Jiu Fei, who was controlling the 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons from afar, could not help but change his expression when he saw this. The earth ancestor veins were too powerful and had exceeded everyone's expectations. The earth ancestor veins were the spiritual roots of this world. They were the source of the world's dragon veins. With enough time, these 9 earth ancestor veins could probably give birth to 9 ancestral dragons. Jiu Fei communicated with the 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons with his mind and controlled them to suppress the 5 earth ancestor veins. He wanted to use the 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons to suppress the 5 earth ancestor veins. Under Jiu Fei's control, the 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons shone with dazzling divine light. They appeared like 5 suns in the sky above the 9 dragons vying for the pearl. Bang! The mountain and river cauldron released a vast primordial chi. The void collapsed. The great power directly suppressed the giant dragon that was resisting the 4 divine beasts. In addition, the 4 extreme Tao Saint weapons also blocked the giant dragon's attack. The Buddhist light of the 3 realms illuminated the world. The soybean-sized lamp emitted a tricolored Buddhist light that shone on the giant dragon. The giant dragon was immediately affected, and the dragon's shadow became even dimmer. The sound of the Sanskrit Buddhist bell reverberated between heaven and earth. The peaceful Buddhist power hid murderous intent. The deadly sound wave almost caused the pouncing giant dragon's shadow to collapse. The purple-gold divine sword shot out thousands of beams of light, piercing through the void, and also piercing through the giant dragon that was charging towards the purple-gold divine sword. The unparalleled sword light descended from the sky, directly chopping down on the ancestral vein of the earth below, and dust flew everywhere. The peerless ominous saber was indeed the peerless ominous saber. In the battle between the extreme Tao Saint weapon and the 9 dragons vying for the pearl, the peerless ominous saber directly killed the giant dragon's shadow. Then, it stabbed into one of the earth ancestor veins. Bang! The earth shook. The mountain and river cauldron displayed its extreme Tao power and suppressed the surroundings. Then, it landed on one of the earth ancestor veins and directly shattered the dragon's shadow. The purple-gold divine sword became as tall as a mountain. It killed the giant dragon and then stabbed into the earth ancestor vein, suppressing one of the earth ancestor veins. Jiyu Fei exerted his full strength. The 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons that were surrounded by the aura of the great Tao descended from the sky one after another. Each of them suppressed one of the earth ancestor veins. The 5 earth ancestor veins were suppressed by Jiyu Fei's 5 extreme Tao Saint weapons. The entire 9 dragons vying for the pearl was dissipating. The power of the peerless ominous ground was rapidly weakening. The demonic diagram that enveloped the world also descended. The demonic diagram even produced a heaven-devouring power. It wanted to absorb the earth dragon chi that had manifested into its inner world. The earth ancestor vein trembled. Rumble, the demonic diagram descended. Suddenly, rays of destructive demonic light rushed out from the demonic diagram and directly shattered the dragon's shadow. The demonic diagram covered the earth ancestor vein. Chapter 652. Roar. An earth-shattering roar came from the ground. Majestic draconic aura burst out from the 6 ancestral veins, trying to repel the extreme saint weapons suppressing them. However, the 6 extreme saint weapons and restrictions were like the arrival of 6 almighty existences, firmly suppressing the 6 ancestral veins. The other 3 ancestral veins that weren't suppressed emitted a towering draconic aura that condensed into 3 giant dragons over 10,000 zhong long. 3 giant dragons circled in the sky above the 9 dragons' competition for the pearl, emitting terrifying dragon roars that shook the heavens. The 3 giant dragons rammed into the 2 extreme saint weapons, suppressing the 2 ancestral veins. Their terrifying power shook the heavens and earth, causing the 6 extreme saint weapons to tremble. Although the 6 ancestral veins were still brimming with draconic aura, they could no longer take the form of giant dragons like the 3 ancestral veins that weren't suppressed. The peerless danger ground of the 9 dragons' competition for the pearl was suppressed. The 6 extreme saint weapons were suppressing the power of the 9 ancestral veins. It was truly shocking. All right, let's go in. In the sky outside the place of the 9 dragons competing for the pearls, a demonic figure unleashed a terrifying demonic aura as he charged into the deadly zone ahead. Jiyu Fei didn't make a move. He was still observing. Although the 9 dragons' competition for the pearl was suppressed by the 6 extreme saint weapons, there was still great danger lurking inside. As expected, as soon as the earth demon Lord Yingtian charged into the danger ground filled with surging earth chi, blinding rays of destruction shot up from below, piercing toward Yingtian. Humph! Yingtian harumphed coldly. His hands danced in the air as boundless demonic energy burst out from his palms, shattering the rays of destruction as he charged downward. At this time, undead creatures shrouded in dense death chi gathered from all directions. Each undead creature exuded a terrifying aura. Countless undead creatures were killed by the 6 great saint weapons. Their souls were used as nourishment for the 6 saint weapons. Only undead creatures of the monarch realm and above survived. In truth, according to the earth demon Lord Yingtian's plan, he was going to kill all the undead creatures, including the 3 supreme emperors, and absorb their soul force. However, Jiyu Fei had a different idea. These thousands of monarchs were all extremely close to the immortal god realm. It would be a pity to kill them just like that. As a result, countless undead creatures were killed. Only the undead creatures of the monarch realm and above were unharmed. It was at this time that the army of undead creatures arrived from all directions under the leadership of the three supreme emperors. "Greetings, Overlord." The three supreme emperors knelt on the ground. "Overlord." The countless king undead creatures behind the three supreme emperors also prostrated themselves before Jiu Fei, who was standing in the sky. This was truly a scene of tens of thousands of kings paying homage. The hidden power of the undead creatures was far beyond Jiu Fei's imagination. Almost half of the kings weren't from the undead skeleton race, the corpse race, or the netherworld race. These kings didn't join any side. Some were independent kings, and some had established their own forces. The three races did not represent the power of the entire world of death. Behind the three supreme emperors were dozens of undying emperors with emperor realm strength. The soul power of these dozens of undying emperors was comparable to the soul power of countless undead creatures. The most powerful force of the death race was still in the hands of Jiu Fei. Even sovereigns had to rush to the supreme sovereign's summons. Among the dozens of sovereigns, there were no more than 30 who truly belonged to the three great races. The power hidden in this world of death was far more powerful than the power on the surface, which surprised Jiu Fei. "Get up," Jiu Fei said indifferently. Even supreme sovereigns had to bow their heads in front of the mighty. King realm and emperor realm experts were nothing more than ants. Rumble. It was at this time that a deafening sound came from the battle of the 9 dragons for the pearl. Dust rose into the sky as the 6 earth ancestral veins suppressed by the extreme saint artifact shook violently. It was as if a huge dragon had flipped over, causing the earth to tremble. The vast might that was unleashed directly caused the 10,000 kings who had just stood up to stagger and fall down to the ground. Only the undying emperor realm cultivator was barely able to stabilize himself. All of them turned pale with fright and were extremely terrified. "What's going on?" Jiu Fei hurriedly looked towards the depths of the 9 dragons vying for the pearl and saw a gigantic demonic figure roaring at the sky. Purple divine lightning rained down from the sky. Each divine lightning had a diameter of 100 zhong, connecting the sky and earth. It was extremely terrifying. "That bastard Ying Tian deserves to be struck by lightning." Jiu Fei was shocked when he saw the scene in the depths of the 9 dragons battle pearl. The purple divine lightning was emitting a terrifying aura that could even be clearly sensed from outside the 9 dragons battle pearl. The battle of the 9 dragons for the pearl was worthy of being called the Hell Dao's deadliest land. Even though 6 of the 9 ancestral veins were suppressed, it still possessed the power to slay immortals, gods, and devils. With the 6 ancestral veins suppressed, the battle of the 9 dragons for the pearl was greatly weakened. But Ying Tian was still in danger. Rumble. Purple divine lightning crackled and danced chaotically, bombarding the giant demonic figure that stood between heaven and earth. The purple lightning seemed to appear out of thin air. It was extremely strange. The 10,000 zhong tall demonic figure roared again and again, its voice shaking the sky. Mountains crumbled and the earth cracked as if doomsday had arrived. The surging demonic aura was dispersed by the purple divine lightning. 9 heavens purple lightning, is it? Jiu Fei murmured. This kind of terrifying lightning that appeared out of thin air wasn't unfamiliar to Li Xuandao. This was the 9 heavens lightning tribulation, a type of heaven and earth tribulation that a cultivator would encounter when breaking through to the almighty realm, capable of killing all cultivators below the almighty realm. Whether it was an immortal, a fiendish demon, or a deity, as long as one wasn't an almighty realm expert, they wouldn't be able to withstand the 9 heavens lightning tribulation. Every cultivator in the world was defying the heavens, going with the flow to become a mortal, going against the flow to become an immortal. In order to obtain longevity, one had to pay the price. Ascending from a mortal to an immortal would trigger a heaven and earth tribulation. As long as one could survive this heaven and earth tribulation, they would become an immortal. Similarly, when experts with unparalleled cultivation and strength broke through the bottleneck to the almighty realm, they would trigger a heaven and earth tribulation. The 9 heavens lightning tribulation was but one of the many heaven and earth tribulations. As long as one could survive the heaven and earth tribulation, they would become an almighty realm expert, able to move unhindered between the heavens and the earth. Why would a 9 heavens lightning tribulation appear in the 9 dragons for the pearl? Jiu Fei was puzzled, but he knew that a lightning tribulation of this level wouldn't be able to harm Ying Tian. Roar! The 10,000 zhong tall demonic figure punched out, defying the heavens. Terrifying demonic aura soared into the sky, piercing through the blue dome of heaven. Boundless purple lightning collapsed, displaying a peerless devil might. Chapter 653. The 9 heavens. Purple lightning in the depths of the 9 dragons competition for the pearl rapidly reformed after being shattered by the demonic fist, striking down on the 10,000 zhong tall demonic figure. Purple lightning tore apart heaven and earth. The divine lightning seemed unbreakable, endlessly spawning in the void and striking down on the demonic figure below. Deafening thunderclaps resounded as a destructive aura swept across the world. It was a lightning domain of the 9 heavens. Divine lightning. Boundless purple lightning wreaked havoc in the area, grinding away at the demonic figure's terrifying demonic aura. Although it can't hurt the demonic figure, it can slowly wear down the demonic figure's strength. Jiu Fei stood in the sky with a solemn expression. 6 of the 9 ancestral dragon earth veins had been sealed, but this forbidden domain was still as terrifying as before. If Ying Tian hadn't recovered his strength as a Devil Dao Supreme Expert, his soul would have long been shattered by the 9 heavens' divine lightning. 9 dragons competition for the pearl, immortals halted. If it weren't for the 6 extreme Dao Saint artifacts displaying their extreme Dao divine might to suppress the Earth Ancestor vein, even a powerful existence would die if they entered. Perhaps only extreme Dao experts would dare to enter this pitilessly dangerous place. The 9 dragons competition for the pearl was suppressed by the 6 extreme Saint artifacts. The power it could display was less than 30%, but it was still as terrifying as before. Any cultivator below the level of Supreme Expert would die without a doubt if they entered. At this time, heaven and earth shook. Deafening dragon roars resounded. The 6 extreme Saint artifacts that had devoured an endless amount of soul force displayed their divine might. A terrifying aura spread from the 9 dragons competition for the pearl, causing the entire Hell Dao to tremble. The 6 suppressed Earth ancestral dragon earth veins were like 6 giant dragons pinned to the ground by the 6 Saint artifacts. They struggled fiercely, unleashing majestic dragon chi that shattered the void around them. Within the 6 ancestral veins, the silhouettes of dragons could be vaguely seen, as if the 6 ancestral dragons were being suppressed. The 3 ancestral veins that weren't being suppressed surged with dragon chi, forming 3 giant dragons that danced in the sky above the 9 great mountain ranges, slamming into the 6 extreme Saint artifacts. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The 6 Saint weapons shook continuously. Although the 3 silhouettes of the dragons were not the Earth ancestral dragons that had truly emerged from the ancestral veins, the terrifying energy ripples they gave off were not any weaker than the extreme Saint weapons. This was the power of the ancestral veins, the source of the world's power. As long as there was enough time, the 9 ancestral veins would definitely give birth to the 9 strongest ancestral dragons in the world. Even now, the great earth dragon chi nurtured by the 9 ancestral veins had already begun to show signs of life. It was not an ignorant thing, and could react immediately when threatened. This was a sign that the ancestral dragon soul was about to form. Even the mountain and river cauldron that could suppress mountains and rivers was shaken by the power of the ancestral vein. The azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise, the 4 divine beasts of the heavens and earth led countless primordial beast souls to fight against a giant dragon. Boom! The giant dragon's claws tore through the layers of soul power and slashed down from the sky, tearing apart the thousands of azure dragon divine souls below. With a swing of the dragon's tail, a large number of primordial beast souls were crushed. The azure dragon of the 4 divine beasts of the heavens and earth could not even withstand a single blow from the earth ancestral dragon chi. The vermilion bird that emitted boundless heavenly fire, the white tiger that manipulated terrifying divine winds to shatter the world, and the black tortoise that seemed to be connected to a vast ocean were all sent flying. The giant dragon formed by the power of the ancestral vein was sent flying, tearing apart countless primordial beast souls with its claws. The dragon might that it emitted could destroy the world, and it was extremely terrifying. This was the terror of an unsuppressed earth ancestral vein. It could directly resist the extreme divine might of an extreme saint artifact, and it was enough to kill a peerless figure of the almighty level. Even an extreme expert would have a headache facing it. This was also the reason why the supreme expert of the Undying Skeleton Clan and the other two almighties of the Shun clan had died in there. The place where the 9 dragons were fighting for the pearl was the center of this death world, and it was the source of the power of this death world. The power of the Earth Ancestral Vein was enough to kill all almighties. Roar. The giant dragon roared, and the terrifying sound waves directly caused the void to silently turn into a piece of chaos. Bam! The dragon claw that was as large as a mountain grabbed the mountain and river cauldron. Hum! The mountain and river cauldron suddenly shook, and countless primordial beast souls rushed out from the body of the cauldron like a volcanic eruption. The roar of the beasts resounded in the world, and the primordial chaos chi surged, and the extreme divine might was displayed. A circle of ripples that could be seen with the naked eye instantly spread out with the mountain and river cauldron as the center. Wherever the transparent ripples passed, the void collapsed, and more than a dozen mountains within a radius of 1,000 miles were instantly turned into dust, and directly wiped out. The giant dragon formed by the power of the ancestral vein was greatly impacted, and it was sent flying 100 miles away by the extreme divine might, and its body almost collapsed. Jiu Fei, who saw this scene from outside the place where the 9 dragons were fighting for the pearl, was extremely shocked. The giant dragon was actually not destroyed by the mountain and river cauldron that had displayed the extreme divine might. Rumble, the earth ancestral vein trembled, and endless earth dragon chi surged out from the ground continuously, as if there was no end to it, and entered the giant dragon that was sent flying by the mountain and river cauldron. The body of the giant dragon gradually became more solid again. Roar. The giant dragon roared at the sky, and charged towards the mountain and river cauldron again. At this time, the azure dragon soul that had been torn apart by the giant dragon rushed out from the mountain and river cauldron again. Not only the azure dragon soul, but the other primordial beast souls that had been torn apart by the giant dragon also appeared from the body of the mountain and river cauldron, and then charged out. As long as the mountain and river cauldron was not destroyed, the 4 heavenly beast souls and the countless primordial beast souls would definitely not be destroyed. No matter how many times they were torn apart, they would reform their souls on the mountain and river cauldron, and it could be said to be indestructible. Not only did the cauldron suppress a great earth ancestral dragon's vein, but it also clashed with a dragon formed from an ancestral dragon's vein. An extreme saint artifact blocked the power of 2 earth ancestral dragon's veins. Jiu Fei realized that the mountain and river cauldron was not the only one fighting against 2. The purple gold divine sword was also fighting against 2 earth ancestral veins. The divine sword that towered into the sky stabbed into one of the ancestral veins, as if it had nailed a giant dragon to the ground. The other ancestral vein that was not suppressed properly transformed into the figure of a giant dragon that coiled around the purple gold divine sword. It roared, and tried to pull the purple gold divine sword out. Hum! The purple gold divine sword vibrated continuously, and the terrifying sword light pierced through the void, and also the giant dragon's body, but it could not destroy the giant dragon that coiled around the sword. Jiu Fei did not rush into the 9 dragons vying for the pearl. He was still watching. He could already see that the power of the 9 earth ancestral veins was endless. Unless the earth ancestral veins were destroyed, the 3 giant dragons that had formed would not disappear. Clang! The sound of the bell was melodious, and the power of the Buddha was vast. It was as if there were countless Buddhas chanting, and the sound of Sanskrit lingered in the air. The peaceful sound of the bell came from a bronze bell. The peaceful sound contained the sound of Buddha, and it blocked the power of the earth ancestral veins that surged over from all directions. Countless swastikas that emitted boundless golden light rushed out from the Buddha bell, and then pressed down, firmly suppressing the earth ancestral vein below. The 3 realms Buddhist lamp stopped above the source of one of the ancestral veins, and dazzling 3-colored Buddha light shone down. Within the Buddha light, a giant Buddha could be vaguely seen. The giant Buddha sat on the ancestral vein, and its hands pressed down on the dragon's head. It was like a primordial deity had captured a giant dragon. The sky-devouring demon diagram covered the ancestral vein, and it emitted a vast devouring power, as if it wanted to suck the ancestral vein into the diagram. The 3rd giant dragon was constantly charging at a demonic diagram. Its giant claws wanted to tear the diagram apart and free the ancestral vein that was trapped by the diagram. The demonic diagram exuded a towering demonic aura, displaying an extreme divine might. It was as if there were countless ferocious demons roaring, continuously blasting away the giant dragons that were charging over. The 6 saint artifacts successfully blocked the power of the 9 ancestral veins, giving Jiyu Fei and Ying Tian a chance to take advantage of the situation. Within a radius of 10,000 li, the earth qi rose, enveloping the land. It was like a scene from before the primordial chaos was formed, and the terrifying aura it exuded was enough to make one's heart palpitate. Jiyu Fei stood high in the sky, looking into the distance. The 6 saint artifacts emitted resplendent divine lights, like 6 different colored sky lanterns in the primordial chaos, blocking the earth qi and illuminating a corner of the world. Ying Tian's heavenly devil avatar had already disappeared into the primordial chaos earth qi. Following the disappearance of the heavenly devil avatar, the 9 heavens lightning in the sky also dissipated into the void. That devil does have some ability after all. Seeing this, Jiyu Fei knew that Ying Tian had successfully created the 9 heavens lightning dominion. He continued on his way to the center of the 9 dragons battle pearl. The road ahead was filled with dangers, and there were many powerful killing formations waiting for Ying Tian. Jiyu Fei was not in a hurry. He was more than happy to see Ying Tian open up a safe path for him. Moreover, the little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk who were hiding in the dark had also appeared. More than 10,000 kings of the dead creatures were gathered outside the 9 dragons battle pearl. Their soul force and death qi surged, waiting for Jiyu Fei's order. This was an army made up of kings of the dead creatures. This kind of force was not enough to deal with a supreme existence. However, using the kings of the dead creatures to open up a path was more than enough. All the low-level dead creatures in the earth path provided endless soul force for the 6 saint artifacts, and even the king realm dead creatures couldn't escape the fate of being cannon fodder. Chapter 654. In the land of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl, dragon roars shook the heavens, murderous aura soared into the sky, and the energy of the earth surged violently. It was like a world of chaos. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, had been inside for an hour. Other than appearing in the lightning region that could summon the 9 heavens divine lightning from the void, he had never appeared again. With the 6 ancestral veins suppressed, the power of the land of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl had decreased by at least half. Even so, there were still unimaginable dangers lurking in every corner. Outside the land of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl stood countless undead creatures. The undead creatures gathered together, forming a terrifying aura. In the sky above these undead creatures, there was a white figure standing in the air. Why hasn't the little monk Fan Xiu appeared yet? Jiyu Fei crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared solemnly at the dusky region that seemed to be evolving into primal chaos. The fact that the little monk Fan Xiu had yet to appear had exceeded Jiyu Fei's expectations. He couldn't help but admire the little monk's patience. Bang! At this time, a loud explosion came from the center of the land of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl. Following that, a terrifying wave of energy surged out from the depths of the land of chaos. The entire purgatory realm was trembling. The thick earth energy surged violently and rushed high into the sky. Shua! A dazzling beam of 9-colored light shot out from the depths of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl. An extremely vast ripple of energy swept out in all directions from the beam of 9-colored light. Even the thick earth energy of the earth was gathered and dispersed. The dark clouds and fog that shrouded the sky quickly dissipated and a starry sky appeared in the sky. What a Ying Tian, what a Earth Demon Lord! Jiyu Fei's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, had entered the depths of the land of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl and triggered the formation of the realm pearl. The 9-colored divine light shot into the sky as if there was no end to it. A boundless ancient aura swept across the land, causing the earth and sky to tremble. The entire Hell Dao felt like it was on the verge of collapsing. Preposterous. Jiyu Fei couldn't help feeling anxious. Ying Tian was already trying to break the boundary bead's seal. If Ying Tian managed to obtain the boundary bead, this world would become his inner world. I can't wait and see any longer, Ji Yufei thought. That little monk Fan Xiu was actually able to keep his composure. Wasn't he afraid that Ying Tian would take away the Hell Dao? As long as Ying Tian obtained the realm bead and refined it, he would have complete control over this world. Swoosh! Ji Yufei took huge strides in the void. Each step covered 1,000 feet and he charged into the place where the 9 dragons were fighting for the pearl. The powerhouses among the tens of thousands of undead creatures also moved. Under the leadership of the 3 supreme emperors of the undead creatures, they rushed into the chaotic world in front of them. Ji Yufei felt as if he had entered a different world the moment he entered the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Even his power seemed to be affected. The kings of the tens of thousands of undead creatures did not disperse after entering the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Instead, they cautiously followed the Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian's path, advancing forward. The path Ying Tian took was much safer compared to the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Swoosh! An invisible killing light shot out, tearing space apart. Spatial cracks appeared in the void, forcing Ji Yufei down from the sky. He didn't want to waste his energy, he wanted to preserve his strength and enter the depths of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. He wanted to compete with Ying Tian and that little monk Fan Xiu. Just as Ji Yufei and the kings of the tens of thousands of undead creatures entered the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, 2 figures silently appeared outside the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Following the appearance of these 2 people, an auspicious and peaceful aura spread out in this terrifying world of death. If Ji Yufei and the old turtle were here, they would definitely recognize these 2 people. The newcomer was enshrouded in Buddhist luminance, holding a purple gold alms bowl in his hand. He had a pair of fair and delicate feet, and his face was flushed red like a porcelain doll carved from jade. The little monk Fan Xiu that even Ji Yufei and Ying Tian were wary of finally appeared. Behind Fan Xiu stood a thin and withered old monk that resembled a bamboo pole. They're all in. Little monk Fan Xiu's eyes emitted rays of golden light as he scanned the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. His face was calm, devoid of any emotion. This place will become their burial ground, the nameless old monk stated indifferently. His face was also calm, devoid of any emotion. Go. We're also going in, little monk Fan Xiu said. By this time, Ji Yufei's figure had already disappeared into the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk used Buddhist luminance to protect themselves. Their bodies emitted a resplendent golden light as they flew into the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The battle between the extreme Dao and the ancestor Earth Veins seemed to have reached a stalemate. The power of the 9 ancestor Earth Veins was restrained by the 6 extreme Dao Saint artifacts. Even so, in the instant that little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk rushed into the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, terrifying killing lights silently tore through the void and shot towards the 2 from all directions. When the countless invisible killing lights reached the little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk, they were blocked by their protective Buddha light, unable to get close to them. Little monk Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk carefully concealed their auras as they quietly followed behind Ji Yufei and the army of death. At this time, the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl was filled with boundless energy. The extreme Dao Saint artifact shook the heavens. 9 dragons flipped over, earth chi surged violently, and the atmosphere was chaotic to the extreme. Ji Yufei didn't notice that someone was secretly following behind him. An immortal Dao Saint artifact radiated from Ji Yufei's body. 9 rays of violet light revolved around him like a descending god, displaying the mighty strength of an immortal Dao Saint artifact. He didn't fear the invisible killing lights that came out of nowhere. Hovering above the army of death, Huang Xiaolong slowly followed Ying Tian's path towards the depths of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Although Ji Yufei had been keeping an eye on little monk Fan Xiu, he didn't know that the little monk had already set his eyes on him. The surroundings were covered in a dusky haze. The power of the ancestor Earth Veins and the thick Earth Chi enveloped the surroundings. Even with Ji Yufei's eyesight, he could only see 2 to 3 li ahead. Shua. A godly light shot out from Ji Yufei's forehead. A wave of god force rippled out from the center of his brows. Amidst the flickering godly light, A godly eye emerged from the center of Ji Fei's brows. The immortal Dao Saint Eye could see through all illusions, pointing straight to the origin of all things in this world. It could pierce through the 9 hells, and there was almost nothing that could obstruct the immortal Dao Saint Eye's vision. As soon as Ji Fei's immortal Dao Saint Eye appeared, the godly light pierced through the thick earth qi that shrouded the entire world. Everything within 100 li radius was revealed to be a vast expanse of white bones that stretched as far as the eye could see. So many bones. Ji Fei was dumbfounded. Chapter 655. Skeletons piled up like a mountain, a scene that shocked and horrified the onlookers. It was hard to tell if these skeletons were the remains of those who died in the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, or if they were already here. However, Ji Fei was certain of one thing: countless living beings had fallen here in the past, resulting in the current scene. It was hard to imagine what kind of terrifying things happened in the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl so many years ago. The death of countless lives was definitely a world-shaking event, and there was probably some kind of heaven and earth secret involved. The truth was probably only known by the master of the Hell Tao, the eternal Buddhist Lord. Ji Fei no longer thought about it. The most important thing now was to enter the center of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. That Ying Tian bastard was too monstrous, entering that place in such a short time. If the realm bead was refined by Ying Tian, only death awaited Huang Xiaolong. If Ying Tian refined the realm bead, he would become the master of this world, able to manipulate the heaven and earth energy of this world at will. He would be the master of this world. The energy contained within the 9 great ancestral dragon veins was too powerful, requiring the 6 great saint artifacts to display their might to contend against it. If Ying Tian refined the realm bead, even a master of the extreme Tao would have a headache. As long as they were in this world, no one would be able to escape. At that time, this world would become a giant world cage, and the people inside would be at Ying Tian's mercy. Such a situation absolutely could not be allowed to happen. Ji Fei no longer thought about it. He led the countless undead kings to the front, carefully avoiding the dangerous areas that his immortal Dao Divine Eye had already identified, heading towards the center of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. At the center of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, a 9-colored divine light formed a giant pillar that connected heaven and earth, dispersing the dark clouds and fog, revealing the starry sky that had been hidden for countless years. The towering 9-colored light pillar became the only thing in this world, affecting the entire Hell Tao. The death qi and fog gradually dispersed, showing signs of reopening the passage of time. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Right at this moment, there was a sudden tremor in front of them. Then, the king of the hundreds of undead creatures walking in front of them was suddenly swallowed by the earth that suddenly split open. The advancing death monarchs were instantly thrown into chaos. The earth cracked open, and the earth ancestor dragon earth vein aura rushed out. The hundreds of undying monarchs nearby were instantly turned into ashes by the earth ancestor dragon earth vein aura, and their souls dissipated. Seeing such a terrifying scene, all the undead monarchs were scared out of their wits. Many undead monarchs even soared into the sky in a panic, trying to escape. However, not only did the undying monarchs fail to escape, but they were also instantly killed by the invisible killing light. Their powerful bodies immediately turned into bone powder and scattered in the air. Even his powerful soul power was mercilessly torn apart by the invisible killing light, turning into specks of soul starlight that flickered in the void. The undead monarchs didn't have Ji Fei's strength, so they couldn't resist the invisible killing light. All of their souls were destroyed. The soul divine light in the sky that was torn apart flickered like fireflies. Ji Fei couldn't help but be startled. The cracked earth in front of them was like a bottomless abyss. The earth ancestor dragon earth vein aura leaked out and blocked their path, forcing them to stop. The earth ancestor dragon earth vein aura was extremely terrifying. Even the powerful undead monarchs were instantly killed, causing Ji Fei's expression to change. In just an instant, more than 1,000 undead monarchs were killed. Even Ji Fei couldn't help but feel pained. The soul power of 1,000 undead monarchs was a powerful force, but it was obliterated just like that. All the undead creatures felt the danger. Entering the 9 dragons fighting for the pearl was simply suicide. No matter how many undead creatures there were, it wouldn't be enough to fill this bottomless pit. Lord, what should we do? Lord, please let us go. Lord, please give us a way to live. The supreme emperors of the Undying Skeleton tribe, the Nether tribe, and the Corpse tribe were all terrified. They had just entered this dangerous land, but it had already devoured more than 1,000 of their undying monarchs. They couldn't help but feel terrified. Their lives were in danger. Jiyu Fei sneered. He also knew that sending these undead kings to explore the path was akin to sending them to their deaths. However, he also didn't expect that they would suffer such a heavy loss right after entering this ominous land. Even though the 9 dragons fighting for the pearl was suppressed by the 6 extreme sacred weapons, it was still extremely terrifying. Every step was filled with danger. Existences below the almighty level would definitely die. A few more times and these undead monarchs would all die in the 9 dragons fighting for the pearl. Since he couldn't drive these undead creatures forward, Jiyu Fei opened his inner world and stored the undead monarchs and the 3 supreme emperors. This was a powerful force that might be useful in the future. The undead monarchs were powerful existences second only to the immortal realm. According to the realm classification in the Tinglong continent, the undead monarchs were in the demigod realm. What did it mean to have over 10,000 demigods? Just thinking about it made one's heart tremble. In the various sects and forces of the Tinglong continent, demigods were used as deterrents. In the Tinglong continent where immortals and immortals were extinct, demigods were invincible. The entire Dao sect only had one demigod, Daoist Ku Rong. Some forces didn't even have a demigod. Without a demigod, a sect could be annexed or destroyed by a sect with a demigod at any time. If nearly 10,000 demigods appeared in the Tinglong continent, what would happen to the cultivation world of the Tinglong continent? Which force could contend against nearly 10,000 demigods? If Jiyu Fei brought this force out of the Naraka realm, he would definitely be able to unify the cultivation world of the Tinglong continent. After storing all the undead creatures into his inner world, Jiyu Fei smashed the void with his fist and forcefully blasted through the thick earth energy in front of him. Then, he dashed forward. The ancestral earth veins energy that leaked out could not stop the footsteps of an almighty expert. 9 divine rainbows revolved around Jiyu Fei's body and swept away the thick earth energy as he walked forward. Along the way, he saw the earth cracking and the mountains crumbling. It was a scene of chaos and disorder. Swoosh! As Jiyu Fei was flying over a rocky hill, a strange sound suddenly came from below. Then, a pitch-black crack split open below him without any warning. Pang! The thick earth energy suddenly rushed out of the crack and slashed upwards from below like a heavenly saber, sweeping past Jiyu Fei. The 9 divine rainbows revolving around Jiyu Fei shook violently from the impact. A great force directly knocked Jiyu Fei several hundred feet away. So powerful. Jiyu Fei was secretly shocked. The ancestral veins energy that leaked out from the earth was very terrifying. If it was an ordinary immortal, he would have been smashed into pieces. However, the heavenly death trap had not lost its power completely and could still make an almighty expert feel the threat of death. Rumble! The heavens and earth trembled. The deeper they went, the more frequent the cracks on the ground became. The extreme Dao Saint artifact displayed its extreme divine might to contend against the power of the ancestral earth vein. The vast pressure that emanated from it shook the surroundings, causing Jiyu Fei to feel as though he was in the middle of a raging sea, as though he could be smashed to death at any moment. The ancestral earth vein trembled as if a giant dragon was flipping its body. The earth crumbled and cracked, and the thick earth energy rushed out from the ground, turning this part of the world into a dusky grey. 3 giant dragon figures danced in the middle of the earth energy, attacking the 6 extreme Dao Saint weapons that were suppressing the ancestral earth vein. This was a dusky space that made Jiyu Fei feel like he was in a world of chaos. If it weren't for the immortal Dao Divine Eye, even Jiyu Fei would find it difficult to move forward. Although Jiyu Fei had followed Ying Tian's path, he had encountered at least 5 death traps along the way, all of them formed by the momentum of heaven and earth. Fortunately, the 6 extreme saint weapons had restricted the power of the 9 great earth ancestral veins in the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, greatly reducing the power of the traps. Otherwise, the traps would have been powerful enough to kill powerful existences. Shua. Ji Fei took another step forward. Boom. All of a sudden, a thunderclap resounded above Ji Fei's head. A bolt of purple lightning the size of a water tank tore through the void, bringing with it a destructive aura as it struck down on Ji Fei. Raising his head, Ji Fei couldn't help but gasp in shock when he saw the bolt of purple lightning. 9 heavens divine lightning, did I step into a lightning zone? Ji Fei groaned inwardly. Even though he was shocked, his reaction wasn't slow. In the split second before the bolt of purple lightning struck him, he executed the 8 desolate steps and dodged to the side. Rumble. The sound of thunder was deafening. Bolts of purple lightning appeared out of thin air. They tore through the air and struck down on Ji Fei. Preposterous. Ji Fei was inwardly shocked. He had seen Ying Tian pass through this lightning zone before, and now he was lucky enough to enter it. Only when he was inside did he feel the terror of this thunder dominion. This was the 9 heavens divine lightning from above the 9 heavens, but he had no idea why it would appear here. This lightning zone was several li wide, and the 9 heavens divine lightning was born directly from the void. Boom. 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 Bolts of purple lightning were like rays of destructive light, exuding a chaotic and destructive aura as they struck down on Ji Fei from all directions. Purple divine lightning was generated in the void of the entire thunder territory. Every inch of the void was filled with purple divine lightning, wreaking havoc. Soon, the void within a radius of several miles had turned into a sea of purple lightning. This was unavoidable. Chapter 656. The 9 heavens thunder was a tribulation lightning that descended from the 9 heavens. It could kill all immortals below the level of Almighty. Even ultimate gods who were one step away from the Almighty realm would be in danger if they were struck by it. However, Ji Fei was not afraid of the 9 heavens thunder since he had seized Li Xuandao's fruit of the way and possessed the strength and cultivation of our Almighty. However, the power of the lightning in the thunder region was so strong that it gave him a headache. The immortal path's divine power was vast and mighty. The 9 divine rainbows around Ji Fei shone with dazzling divine light like 9 beams of destructive divine light that blocked all the purple lightning that came from all directions. Rumble. Thunder shook the sky as the void was torn apart by the power of lightning that was released in an instant. After the divine lightning flashed, cracks appeared in the void wherever it passed. This was the endless power of the heavenly punishment. It was a terrifying destructive power between heaven and earth that could kill all living beings below the level of Almighty. Ji Fei slowly moved forward in the endless purple lightning. This was a great power condensed by the power of heaven and earth. The power of the purple lightning locked a part of the void. Although the 9 heavens thunder could not hurt Ji Fei, it made Ji Fei feel as if an ancient divine mountain was pressing down on him. He had to use the immortal path's divine power to resist it. It took Ji Fei almost an hour to walk out of the thunder territory, a short distance of a few kilometers. Strangely, when Ji Fei walked out of the thunder region, the 9 heavens thunder behind him immediately dissipated in the void. Only the roar of thunder was still echoing between heaven and earth. The 9 heavens thunder came suddenly and disappeared just as suddenly. The terrifying aura of destruction retreated like the tide, which surprised Ji Fei. The reason why the 9 dragons fighting for the pearl was known as the #1 killing trap in the Naraka realm was that it was filled with killing traps and dangerous places. If it was not for the fact that 6 of the 9 ancestral veins were suppressed, the power of the 9 heavens thunder would be far greater. The divine lightning that was strengthened by the power of the 9 ancestral veins was enough to kill our Almighty. 6 extreme saint weapons of the extreme Tao displayed their supreme divine might. Like 6 sky lanterns, they each illuminated a corner of the dusky world. The divine might of the extreme Tao swept away layers of earth energy, allowing the 3 unsuppressed ancestral veins to charge at it. Although the giant dragon formed from the 3 ancestral vein chi caused the 6 extreme saint artifacts to shake, it was unable to truly shake the treasures that displayed the might of the extreme path. The 6 extreme saint artifacts restrained the power of the 9 ancestral veins, preventing the peerless 9 dragons vying for the pearl from unleashing its terrifying destructive power. The mountains shook, and dust rose high into the sky. The dragon's roar shook the heavens as if doomsday had arrived. After exiting the lightning region, Jiu Fei continued forward. He had no choice but to be careful. The deeper he went, the more dangerous situations there were. There was even an independent void inside that hid great killing intent. Jiu Fei followed the path taken by the Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian. Along the way, the rising earth energy did not obstruct Jiu Fei's vision. The immortal Tao God I could see through the origin of all things in this world. Even the most profound disguise technique could not hide from Jiu Fei's eyes. Ever since he opened the immortal Tao God Eye, he had never closed it again. Jiu Fei discovered that under the immortal Tao God Eye's scanning, there were some places with towering baleful aura, and some places filled with death energy. These places were definitely filled with great danger. These were all things that could be seen through the immortal Tao God Eye. What made Jiu Fei wary and troubled was that some of the dangerous situations could not be prevented. If they were not activated, even if they were exposed to the immortal Tao God Eye, Jiu Fei would not be able to see through them. He no longer dared to fly in the sky. Landing on the ground, he walked step by step towards the depths of the Nine Dragons competition for the pearl. Jiu Fei was not in a hurry. Every step he took was extremely careful, but he still fell for the trap. After passing through a field of rubble, he took a step forward. Shua. The scenery in front of him suddenly changed. An extremely powerful baleful aura swept over without any warning. Not good. Jiu Fei was startled. Focusing his eyes, he found himself in a terrifying space. It was not big, but it was filled with baleful aura. At the center of the space was a pool of blood, emitting a pungent stench. Several giant skeletons were lying in the blood pool. The eerie aura emanating from the pool sent chills down Jiu Fei's spine. Jiu Fei sensed danger from the blood pool. It was as if a peerless demon was hiding in the pool, and it could jump out at any time. Glug glug glug. Suddenly, the thick, scarlet blood seemed to boil as it emitted a string of bubbles. The evil blood faintly emitted a dark red evil light. The evil and terrifying aura grew stronger and stronger. There was something in the blood pool, but as for what it was, Jiu Fei had no idea. He had barged into a dangerous and sinister space. There were no passageways connecting to the outside world at all. How did he enter this space that was similar to the inner world? Jiu Fei was puzzled. Taking a step forward, he entered a space like this. Jiu Fei pressed his palm forward. Immortal God Force surged out from his palm. Bam! With a loud bang, the void shattered. He had forcefully pierced through this void, and the aura from the outside immediately penetrated through the shattered void and entered. Roar! Suddenly, an angry roar came from the blood pool. Wah! Blood splashed everywhere. A demonic figure shrouded in endless bloody light pounced towards Jiu Fei. What is this? Jiu Fei stretched out his right hand. Kai, 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 Kai. 5 beams of dazzling divine light shot out from his 5 fingers and pierced through the demonic shadow. Pu, 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 Pu. The demonic figure did not dodge. The 5-finger lights instantly pierced through the demonic figure's body. 5 bowl-sized holes appeared on the demonic figure's body. The demonic figure was sent flying backwards. Plop! It smashed into the blood pool. Jiu Fei no longer paid attention to the demonic figure. He directly broke through the void's barrier and rushed out. A terrifying roar came from behind him. The moment Jiu Fei rushed out from the sinister and sinister space, a resplendent green saber light, like a heavenly saber, emitted a heart-palpitating energy fluctuation. It slashed down with extreme speed. The saber light split heaven and earth, destroying the void. Jiu Fei had no way to dodge. He didn't even have time to teleport. He couldn't help but be scared out of his wits. Chapter 657. Roar. Jiu Fei roared madly, and the void in front of him was shattered by his roar. At the same time, he used all his strength to bend his waist backward, and his legs kicked the ground with all his might. Boom! A large area of the ground under his feet was instantly crushed by his stomp, and the entire ground shook violently. Swoosh! The divine eyes of the immortal path emitted an unprecedentedly bright divine light, and it pierced through the green saber light that was coming at his face. Under the divine light, the void was directly annihilated. This saber attack was too sudden. All of Ji Yufei's actions were done without thinking, and he directly relied on his battle-hardened instincts. The vast Buddhist power formed a terrifying green saber light, and it split the heaven and earth in half. The terrifying energy waves were vast and mighty, and the thick earth energy on the ground was dispersed. The little monk Fan Xiu made his move. He didn't make a move before, but once he did, he used an extremely vicious killing move. He vowed to split Ji Yufei in half with one strike. Boom! The dazzling divine light collided with the saber light that was coming at his face, and a dazzling light erupted. Ji Yufei was blinded in an instant, and his eyes could no longer see anything. Chapter 658. The shadow of a Buddha appeared on Fan Xiu's body. Buddhist power surged. At this moment, Fan Xiu no longer looked like a child carved from jade. Instead, he looked like a Buddha. He wielded the green jade ring blade and attacked Ji Yufei continuously. The little monk was like a victorious fighting Buddha. His will to fight was like a rainbow. The green jade ring blade slashed through the void and split the world. It was extremely ferocious. No one would have thought that a little baldy who looked like a child would have such a strong side. Compared to Fan Xiu, Ji Yufei was even more ferocious, domineering, and valiant. He grabbed the chaotic divine mountain and smashed it at Fan Xiu. The chaotic divine mountain shattered the void. Every time it smashed, the world would tremble. The void would collapse. The terrifying power shattered the brilliant blade light of the supreme Buddhist weapon. The two mighty figures of the immortal Tao and the Buddhist Tao were like two unparalleled gods as they fought in a frenzy. They were so powerful that the heavens were falling and the earth was cracking. Wherever they passed, even the great momentum of slaughter condensed from the heavens and the earth was about to collapse. This time, Ji Yufei was truly enraged. His opponent was actually so merciless and suddenly attacked him, intending to kill him. This caused Ji Yufei to be enraged. Buddhists were supposed to be merciful, but Ji Yufei did not see any mercy in the little monk Fan Xiu. Instead, he saw the kind of person who would stab others in the back. The nameless old monk was the same as Fan Xiu. Although Ji Yufei was fighting with Fan Xiu, he had already sensed the nameless old monk's presence. The nameless old monk was lying in ambush. He was probably looking for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow. "You want to kill me? Then you must be prepared to die." Ji Yufei cursed in his heart. Then, he gritted his teeth and no longer hesitated. He immediately used the secret art of ascension. He did not want to use the secret art of ascension. This kind of heaven-defying divine art could not be used indefinitely. After using it once, he had to wait for 24 hours before he could use it again. This way, he would not be affected at all. However, if he continued to use this divine art for 24 hours, he would have to pay the price of his life essence. Although he could still use the divine art's power, his vitality would be greatly damaged afterwards. Ji Yufei only wanted to kill Fan Xiu and the nameless old monk. He could not care so much. The secret art of ascension was successfully used. Waves of divine power began to seep out of his body. Boom! Ji Yufei's body suddenly burst with divine light. Rays of divine light rushed out from his body, and the terrifying power directly turned the void into nothingness. Die! Ji Yufei retracted his chaotic divine mountain and slammed his palm towards Fan Xiu. Bang! A huge purple hand appeared in the void, emitting an extremely terrifying energy wave. It was as if hundreds of thousands of ancient divine mountains were pressing down on the little monk Fan Xiu. Under the huge hand, the void was annihilated. The terrible aura of destruction filled every inch of space. The whole world was smashed into pieces. Little monk Fan Xiu felt a great sense of danger. He felt that the void around him seemed to have solidified, and the movement of his body was actually affected. A great power locked down the entire world. Fan Xiu was shocked to find that he had nowhere to hide. His aura had been locked down. No matter where he tried to hide, the purple hand would descend and turn him into meat paste. Roar! Fan Xiu roared. Buddhist power surged all over his body. A Buddha's Dharma body emerged from his body. All the power surged into the green jade ring blade in his hand. Hum! The green jade ring blade suddenly vibrated. Blade light rushed out and pierced through the void. This supreme Buddhist weapon actually emitted a trace of supreme divine power. Without any hesitation, the little monk Fan Xiu slashed at the incoming hand. Swoosh! The dazzling blade light rushed into the sky. The blade light seemed to become the only thing in the world, illuminating the whole world. Boom! In an earth-shattering sound, the huge purple hand directly smashed the world and collapsed the blade light. Its power did not decrease, and it still slapped towards Fan Xiu. In the face of absolute power, even with the supreme Buddhist weapon, Fan Xiu could not resist Ji Yufei's attack. Bam! The little monk, Fan Xiu, was sent flying by the huge purple hand as he spat out mouthfuls of blood. The blood that came out of Fan Xiu's mouth emitted a resplendent golden light, as though there was a golden divine fire burning within. Swoosh! Ji Yufei directly disappeared from where he was. The next moment, he instantly approached Fan Xiu, who was flying backward, and then he stepped on Fan Xiu. Desolate steps, 8 kills. The first step was taken. A terrible power was mighty under Ji Yufei's feet. The void directly collapsed under his step. Bam! Ji Yufei was incomparably powerful. He directly stepped on Fan Xiu from the sky, and with a bang, he smashed into the mountain rocks below, causing dust to rise high into the sky. The 9 dragons competing for the pearl was suppressed by the 6 supreme sacred weapons. Although it did not completely lose its power, the various terrifying places in the 9 dragons competing for the pearl would not be able to kill a powerful existence. Ji Yufei used the secret skill of ascension, and his strength instantly increased by 10 times, suppressing Fan Xiu. He was incomparably powerful, as if a peerless martial artist had descended. After he stomped Fan Xiu down from the sky, he was about to chase after him. At this moment, in the thick earth chi below, countless dazzling golden lights suddenly lit up, and in the golden lights, there was a vague silhouette of a person. The terrible Buddhist power was vast and mighty. It was as if 108 golden suns had appeared below, and they rushed towards Ji Yufei in the sky. In each golden sun, there was a Buddha sitting cross-legged, and each Buddha looked different. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The whole heaven and earth was shaken by the 108 dazzling golden lights that suddenly rushed up from below. The world trembled as if it was about to collapse. 108 blessed Buddha beads. Ji Yufei couldn't help but be taken aback. From the memories of Li Xuandao's soul, he learned that this was a sacred object of Buddhism. A sacred weapon refined by a supreme Buddhist expert. Although it was not a supreme sacred weapon, it could still be considered as half a precious treasure, possessing great power. In the end, the nameless old monk had no choice but to make a move. Humph! Ji Yufei sneered. Under the effect of the secret skill of ascension, his strength increased tenfold, infinitely close to the level of an extreme Dao expert. Even if it was a real supreme sacred weapon, he wouldn't be afraid, not to mention half a precious treasure. Boom! Ji Yufei's hand reached out, pressing downwards, grabbing the 108 blessed Buddha beads in his palm. With a pinch, cracking noises resounded in the air. The 108 blessed Buddha beads were crushed by his hand, bursting out with resplendent golden lights. The blessed Buddha beads were broken, and a muffled groan came from the darkness below. The boundless Buddhist power that burst out from the blessed Buddha beads was directly absorbed by Ji Yufei's supreme physique, turning into God force, becoming a part of his own strength. Peng! The blessed Buddha beads stopped Ji Yufei for a moment, allowing little monk Fan Xiu to soar up into the sky. His hand gripped the green jade ring saber. His white monk robe was dyed red with Buddhist blood. This was the first time he was in such a sorry state. Looks like I won't be able to kill you without using my final trump card. Little monk Fan Xiu wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth, calmly looking at Ji Yufei. Show me what you've got, or you won't have another chance. Ji Yufei sneered, pressing forward. With every step he took, the void beneath his feet crumbled. Is that so? Little monk Fan Xiu revealed a rare smile. He put away the green jade ring saber, then reached out with his right hand, pressing forward. Boom! The earth quaked as boundless golden light enveloped the earth. The entire area of the 9 dragons competing for the pearls quaked violently. A towering Buddhist power engulfed the heavens and earth. Even the 6 saint weapons suppressing the 9 dragons competing for the pearls were affected. The boundless Buddhist power was like a vast ocean, enveloping all directions as if the end of the world had arrived. Roar! What's going on? Ji Fei paled in fright. The ancient confusion energy that gushed out from little monk Fan Xiu's right hand was too powerful, causing him to feel the threat of death. Ooh-wah! Ji Fei roared madly. The surging energy almost caused his body to crumble. He frantically circulated his immortal energy and pushed his hands forward in an attempt to stop this energy. However, the energy was too powerful. This was a power that surpassed the realm of the supreme figures. Even though Ji Fei's strength had increased by 10 times, he still couldn't resist it. Bang! Ji Fei's hands shattered the moment they came into contact with the energy, turning into a puddle of blood. Ji Fei roared as he was sent flying. How is this possible? Ji Fei couldn't believe it. He was sent flying for 100 miles into the depths of the 9 dragons competing for the pearls. Everywhere he went, he broke through all the deadly traps and heavenly momentum. He vomited blood as he crashed into the giant 9-colored light pillar at the center of the 9 dragons competing for the pearls. He almost fainted. How did little monk Fan Xiu become so powerful all of a sudden? No, that's not his power, there's something strange about his right hand. Ji Fei immediately understood. Little monk Fan Xiu was being suppressed by him, so there was no way he could suddenly possess the power that surpassed the realm of the supreme figures. As expected, the Buddhist Lord had left behind a backup plan for his disciples and grand disciples. He could vaguely see a giant 9-colored orb spinning slowly below the 9-colored light pillar. Outside the light pillar stood a figure shrouded in demonic aura. 9 dragon heads the size of mountains, 9 stone tablets resembling heavenly monuments. That was the last thing Ji Fei saw. I won't be seeing you out. Ying Tian's voice echoed in Ji Fei's ears. Then, the space around him twisted. In the next moment, he felt a familiar aura approaching him from all directions. When he took a closer look at his surroundings, he was both surprised and overjoyed. The 9-colored light pillar connected the sky and earth, becoming the only source of light in the dusky sky. 9 pitch-black mountains towered over the horizon. The ground was covered in white bones, emitting a boundless murderous aura. This is the desolate battlefield. The ancient desolate battlefield on the Tenglong continent. Ji Fei was astounded. He discovered that he might be at the center of the ancient desolate battlefield. The 9-colored light that connected the 2 worlds had teleported him out from the Naraka realm. Chapter 659. The land of the far west was the west of the Western Buddhist land. There were ancient ruins there. It was an ancient battlefield in the primordial desolate battlefield. The primordial desolate battlefield was the oldest relic in the Tenglong continent. Countless years ago, an earth-shattering war took place here. Blood dyed the earth red. Countless living beings had fallen in that great battle. Even the soil on this side of the earth was soaked in the blood of all living beings. Even after countless years, the soil on this side of the earth was still dark brown, like dried bloodstains. No one knew how big the primordial desolate battlefield was because no one could truly enter the depths of this primordial battlefield. On this day, a terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly came from the primordial battlefield. A 9-colored divine light shot up from the depths of the primordial battlefield. Rumble, the entire primordial battlefield shook. The 9 mountains were shaking. Countless sand and stones rolled down from the 9 mountains. The primordial battlefield was filled with murderous intent. Roar. A terrifying roar came from the depths of the primordial battlefield. Unknown powerful beings were alarmed. They were roaring uneasily. The roar made people's hair stand on end. The terrifying shockwave directly transmitted into the Western Buddhist land, breaking the peace there. All the experts of the Buddhist sect who sensed the shockwave came out. An important place of Buddhism, the spiritual mountain where the Buddha Lord's tomb was located, immediately emitted a golden Buddha light and flew towards the primordial battlefield. In an instant, It disappeared into the horizon. At this time, the primordial battlefield was already boiling. Dark clouds surged, blocking the sky and the sun. It was as if the night had suddenly descended. Powerful and unknown creatures walked out from the darkness one after another, roaring and running about on this terrifying battlefield. They were all terrified and uneasy. In the depths of the primordial battlefield, in the center of the 9 mountains, a huge 9-colored light pillar stood between the sky and the earth. In the sky, a huge swastika was rotating and a vast Buddhist power was surging. Swoosh, 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 a golden light pillar rushed up from the 9 mountains at the same time. The 9 light pillars connected with the swastika in the sky. Boom! There was a huge tremor, and endless Buddhist light descended from the sky, enveloping the surroundings. The aura of the great Tao lingered, and the powerful Buddhist power seemed to form a huge formation, sealing the area within a radius of thousands of miles within the 9 black mountains. 8 silhouettes dashed out from the 8 mountains one after another, standing in the void and looking at the 9-colored light pillar. Only one of the mountains near the land of Buddha did not appear. Within the 9 mountains, baleful energy surged. Sinister winds howled, and the bones on the ground were all swept up into the sky. A terrifying aura spread out, as terrifying as the descent of a region. The swastika in the sky unleashed boundless Buddhist power, trapping the evil and terrifying aura within the 9 mountains. About half an hour later, a figure suddenly appeared in the 9-colored light pillar as if he had walked out of the void. Roar! That person raised his head to the sky and roared. His roar shook the mountains and rivers, and even the swastika in the sky was affected by the impact. The terrifying roar spread out, and in a radius of 100 miles, the ground shook violently like waves. Little bald monk Fan Xiu. Gu Fei's roar shook the heavens and the earth, causing the 9 mountains to tremble. He was in an extremely miserable state. Both of his arms were shattered, and divine blood flowed out. Each drop of divine blood was emitting a mournful bloody light, containing a powerful immortal Tao's divine power. His entire body was covered in blood, and his flesh was badly mutilated. His body was on the verge of collapsing. His supreme immortal physique had suffered an unprecedented serious injury, and it was on the verge of collapse. Ah, little bald monk Fan Xiu, if I don't kill you, my name is not Gu Fei. Gu Fei was furious. He was always on guard, but in the end, he still fell into the little monk Fan Xiu's trap. At this time, the time limit of the Heaven Ascension secret law was not up yet. He directly sat in the 9-colored light pillar and channeled the immortal Tao's divine power. His supreme immortal physique immediately produced a heaven-devouring power that devoured the power of the heaven and earth from all directions. The power of the heaven and earth in the 9 mountains immediately became chaotic, and it continuously gathered towards Gu Fei and entered his body. Gu Fei's supreme immortal physique was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The divine blood that splashed out also flowed back into his body, and the immortal Tao's divine power surged inside Gu Fei's body. The blood and energy in his body surged like a river, and the divine light was dazzling. His muscles, bones, and flesh were moving, and there were strange noises coming from the supreme immortal physique. It was as if the 9 heavens were thundering, or as if the waves were crashing on the shore. The supreme immortal physique shot out waves of divine light, and his flesh and bones were regenerating. Gu Fei's shattered arms were also quickly regenerating. Very quickly, the 2 arms grew back, perfectly intact. They flickered with an elite divine light as if they were cast from divine steel, full of power. Before the time limit of the Heaven Ascension secret law was up, Gu Fei's supreme immortal physique had completely recovered. There was no longer a single scar on his body. The powerful aura began to converge, but the power of the heaven and earth from all directions continued to gather towards Gu Fei. His body was like a bottomless pit, devouring the energy of the heaven and earth. Very quickly, the power of the heaven and earth inside the 9 black mountains was completely devoured by Gu Fei's supreme immortal physique. Even the power of the Buddhist Tao was almost triggered. Rumble, the 9 mountains shook, and the Buddhist power surged. The swastika in the sky was operating, and it sprinkled down endless Buddhist lights that sealed off the 4 directions, isolating this part of the world. Ji Fei opened his eyes. 2 purple divine lights shot out from his eye sockets like lightning. They were several feet long. He stood up from the void and was bathed in the 9 divine lights. He glanced around, and when he saw the 8 figures standing on top of the Black Mountains, Ji Fei's eyes turned red. These were the people of the Buddhist Tao. Without a doubt, these 8 bald donkeys were definitely the same as the nameless monk experts from the Buddhist Tao guarding the Black Mountains. At this moment, Ji Fei was enraged whenever he saw a bald head. Swoosh! 8 rays of divine light shot out from Ji Fei's body, piercing through space and shooting towards the 8 figures on the mountain peak in the distance. Pitch-black spatial cracks were left in the wake of the divine light. Boom! 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 The 8 divine lights were all blocked by the power of the Grand Formation and exploded in front of the mountain. They simply couldn't get close to the 8 figures on top of the mountain. Countless Buddhist runes were destroyed in the void along with the burst of divine light. Damn it! Ji Fei raised his head and looked at the huge swastika in the sky. He was filled with hatred. If he didn't break this array, it seemed like he wouldn't be able to kill those bald heads outside the array. On top of the 8 black mountains stood 8 old monks. They seemed to be shocked by Ji Fei's attack. Buddhist power surged from their bodies, and golden Buddhist lights seeped out of their bodies. It was as if immortals had descended to the mortal world. They were also inexplicably shocked by Ji Fei's appearance in the Grand Formation. They didn't know how Ji Fei entered the 9 black mountains. Could it be that he came out from that place? The experts from the Buddhist Tao were all shocked and doubtful. It was difficult for them to maintain a calm state of mind. Seeing that he couldn't kill the 8 bald heads outside the array in a short time, Ji Fei thought about how to kill his way back into the Hell Tao. The 9-colored light pillar connected the 2 realms. Ji Fei could sense the aura of the Hell Tao in the light pillar. He was about to shatter the void and see if he could follow the 9-colored divine light to kill his way into the Hell Tao. Chapter 660. Inside the 9-colored light pillar, the void trembled and a figure appeared in front of Ji Fei without any warning. Ji Fei became excited the moment he saw the person who suddenly appeared. He directly threw a punch at the confused person who didn't know what was happening. The moment the person felt Ji Fei's presence, Ji Fei's fist had already fiercely hit the person's chest. Bang! Catcher! A bone-chilling sound of bones breaking resounded. The person's chest immediately caved in. Blood spurted out from his mouth and he was sent flying more than 10 miles away. Drops of golden blood sprinkled down from the void. It's you. The person was horrified. He didn't expect to meet Ji Fei here. Ji Fei's punch had smashed his chest against his back. His internal organs were shattered and his physical body was severely injured. Ha ha! Is this the karma that you Buddhists speak of? Ji Fei laughed heartily as he pressed forward step by step. With every step he took, the entire sky trembled. Ji Fei's strength was unparalleled. His murderous aura soared to the sky and his murderous intent caused the heaven and earth to lose their color. The person felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave and couldn't help but shiver. The person who suddenly appeared in the 9-colored light pillar was the little monk Fan Shou's follower, the nameless old monk. He also followed in his footsteps and was transported out of the Naraka realm. I'll kill you first, old Baldy, then I'll find that little Baldy to settle the score. Ji Fei said coldly. He used the 8 desolation steps and suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, he had already appeared in front of the nameless old monk. This was not teleportation, it was a display of extreme speed. Ji Fei's 8-step speed, coupled with his supreme immortal physique, had reached a level where he could come and go without leaving a shadow, not any slower than teleportation. Ji Fei directly threw another punch, not giving the nameless old monk any chance to dodge. The old monk could only cross his arms in front of his chest to block Ji Fei's fist. Bang! Catcher! Ji Fei's fist force was as heavy as a huge mountain. Without any suspense, the nameless old monk was directly blown away, and the bones in his arms were broken by Ji Fei's fist. The nameless old monk's cultivation was far inferior to Ji Fei's, making it difficult for him to fight against Ji Fei. He was completely suppressed by Jiu Fei, and Jiu Fei had complete control over the rhythm of the battle. Bam! Jiu Fei chased after him with large strides and swung his fists, sending the nameless old monk flying once more. Punch after punch, the nameless old monk vomited a large mouthful of blood and didn't have the strength to retaliate at all. Ha ha! This feels great. Jiu Fei laughed out loud. He didn't kill the nameless old monk right away. Instead, he punched the nameless old monk's body repeatedly, breaking his tendons and bones. The fiend cultivates to such an arrogant extent. Devil, stop. At this time, the 8 old monks standing at the peak of the 9 mountains had already discovered that the nameless old monk was being tortured. Hence, they all shouted. However, the Buddhist seal formation had sealed the interior of the 9 mountains. Although the people inside couldn't leave, it was impossible for the people outside to enter. The 8 Buddhist powerhouses could only watch helplessly as the nameless old monk was tortured. Jiu Fei couldn't be bothered with them and continued to throw punches, causing the nameless old monk's bones to continuously crack. The nameless old monk's body was covered in blood, and some parts of his body could even see his bones. His physical body was deformed, but he was not dead. The nameless old monk's cultivation was limitless, and he had the cultivation of a quasi-almighty. As long as his soul was not destroyed, even if his physical body was turned into ashes, he would not truly die. Roar! The nameless old monk roared and howled. His face was covered in blood, and he looked extremely ferocious. He no longer looked like an eminent monk of the Buddhist sect. Under Jiu Fei's suppression, he could not use any mystic arts to fight against Jiu Fei. All he could do was retreat, and he could not retreat at all. The nameless old monk was so depressed that he was about to go crazy. Jiu Fei appeared behind the nameless old monk in an instant and swept his leg at the nameless old monk's waist. Bam! Catcher! This kick broke the nameless old monk's spine. I'll take you down with me, the nameless old monk roared in a frenzy. Then, there was a loud boom from his body. A dazzling golden Buddhist light was emitted from his body. An extremely violent and terrifying power erupted, causing the entire void to tremble under this power. Trying to self-destruct. Jiu Fei's expression changed upon seeing this. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed the nameless old monk's bald head. An extremely powerful immortal force surged from Jiu Fei's palm, forcefully suppressing the power that was erupting from the nameless old monk's body. The nameless old monk was inconsolable. Self-detonation was his final trump card. However, this trump card had been forcefully disrupted by someone else. The nameless old monk knew that his life was in someone else's hands. Not only had Jiu Fei imprisoned his physical body, but he had also imprisoned his soul, making it impossible for him to abandon his physical body and escape with his soul. Soul snatch! Jiu Fei uttered coldly. Then, his right hand, which was still on the nameless old monk's bald head, emitted rays of divine light that rushed into the nameless old monk's head. At the same time, his right palm produced a great suction force, directly capturing the nameless old monk's soul. Divine force surged and dazzled. Jiu Fei's right hand seemed to have turned into a bottomless black hole, devouring the nameless old monk's soul. It was a powerful force of soul. Not only had Jiu Fei devoured the nameless old monk's soul, but he had also extracted and devoured all of the old monk's energy. He was seizing the nameless old monk's fruit of the path. The boundless Buddhist force was all seized by Jiu Fei in the end. The nameless old monk's body turned into a dried corpse, and Jiu Fei casually tossed it aside. The 8 old monks outside could not remain calm after seeing the nameless old monk die at Jiu Fei's hands. They all roared and yelled at Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei glanced coldly at the 8 figures on the mountain peak in the distance. This is just collecting some interest first. When I leave this place, it will be the end of you bald donkeys. After Jiu Fei refined the energy, not only did he recover all the energy he had expended, he even felt like he was brimming with energy. All the injuries he had suffered were completely healed. The immortal god force in his body surged, and he really wanted to find someone to fight. Boom! Just as Jiu Fei was about to return to the 9-colored pillar of light, another loud tremor came from the 9-colored pillar of light, causing the void to ripple like transparent water. Whoosh! A huge cauldron appeared in the nine-colored light. A boundless and ancient aura that seemed to come from the primordial chaos immediately spread out and spread across the world. Chapter 661. Rumble. A huge cauldron was suspended in the void, and on the body of the cauldron, all kinds of hazy images were constantly emerging. There was a giant dragon walking, an endless mountain range, and a vast sea. It was as if a world was emerging. The mountain river cauldron suppressed the mountains and rivers on the earth. A terrifying pressure spread out with the mountain river cauldron as the center. Visible ripples spread out in all directions, and the nine-colored light beam was almost cut in half. Heaven and earth shook, and the 9 black mountains shook violently. The entire Buddhist seal suffered a great impact, and the huge swastika in the sky emitted endless golden Buddhist light. A transparent golden energy wall began to emerge from the void, like an inverted bowl, covering the interior of the 9 black mountains under the golden bowl. This was a barrier condensed by endless Buddhist power. The Great Sumeru Rui Buddha Light Shield. Seeing this, Jiyu Fei immediately recognized that it was the old ancestor of the Shen clan, Li Xuandao. Although he was not the personal disciple of the legendary Supreme Tao ancestor, he was still a disciple. He knew many secrets of heaven and earth, and he knew all kinds of magical powers and spells of the great masters like the back of his hand. Even if he had not seen it, he had heard of it. Jiyu Fei had merged with Li Xuandao's soul memory, and naturally knew all kinds of unknown, infinitely ancient secrets from Li Xuandao's soul memory. This is the backup left by the ancient Buddha? Jiyu Fei's face became solemn. The Great Sumeru Rui shield could seal the sky and trap the earth. Even an extreme master would have a headache if he was trapped. Only the legendary Buddhist Lord would be able to lay down this ancient Buddhist formation and display this Buddhist divine ability in front of the people of the world. The Buddhist magical power had endless wonderful uses. The Buddhist power was vast, and on the Great Sumeru Rui shield, there were faint lines of the Great Tao, flowing with the aura of the Great Tao. The Great Meru Rui shroud displayed the power of the Great Way, resisting the mighty pressure of the mountain and river cauldron. Even so, under the supreme pressure of the mountain and river cauldron, the entire world seemed to collapse. Jiyu Fei rushed into the sky and stood on the mountain river cauldron. What exactly happened in the Naraka realm? Jiyu Fei was secretly shocked. He was surprised that the mountain and river cauldron had flown out. Without the suppression of the extreme path sacred weapon, the terrifying might of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl was about to recover. That was a terrifying killing ground that could even kill almighties. It was the center of the Naraka realm. It was hard to imagine what would happen to that place of death without the suppression of the ultimate saint artifact of the Great Path. After devouring the nameless old monk's divine soul and power, Jiyu Fei's peerless immortal physique had recovered to its peak state. His battle intent was like a rainbow, and he desperately wanted to kill his way into the Naraka Tao. Rumble, Jiyu Fei urged the cauldron of mountain and river to descend. The void shattered, and he discovered that the 9-colored light beam that connected the 2 worlds did not dissipate because of the shattering of the void. The 9-colored light pillar was like a beacon, guiding Jiyu Fei towards the path of hell, shattering the void and breaking the barrier between the 2 worlds, advancing towards the path of hell. Jiyu Fei could sense the aura of the path of hell in the 9-colored light pillar, so he was able to lock onto the location of the path of hell again. He drove the cauldron of mountain and river to pierce through the heaven and earth, and once again kill his way towards the path of hell. If not for the existence of the 9-colored light pillar that connected the 2 worlds, Jiyu Fei definitely would not have been able to lock onto the location of the path of hell. With this guidance, Jiyu Fei was able to kill his way into the path of hell again. Jiyu Fei stood on the cauldron of mountain and river, guiding the primordial chaos aura to protect himself. Even though the outside of the cauldron of mountain and river was chaotic, the destructive power within the chaotic void could not harm Jiyu Fei. It was very easy and simple to be transported out of the path of hell by the 9-colored light pillar, and the process of traversing the 2 worlds was completed in an instant. However, to reverse the flow and follow the 9-colored light pillar back to the path of hell was not so simple. There was no mighty power of time and space in the chaotic void, and the 9-colored light pillar seemed to have no end in the chaotic void. It was unknown how long the cauldron of mountain and river had descended, but suddenly, the cauldron of mountain and river shook violently. Bang! With a loud bang, the barrier in the void was broken once again. An extremely terrifying wave surged in from the gap that had suddenly shattered. This was a terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Roar! Boom! Bang! Loud shouts, sounds of energy clashing, and explosions rang out incessantly. The outside world seemed to be bustling with noise and excitement. Through the hole in the void, Jiu Fei could vaguely make out the silhouettes of giant dragons dancing in the air. One after another, supreme treasures that emitted supreme divine might streaked across the void, leaving behind dazzling divine light. Vast and mighty demonic energy and Buddhist energy surged. The heaven and earth shook as if doomsday had arrived. Fight, fight. It's best if those two fellows die together. Jiu Fei was in no hurry to go out. The atmosphere outside was too chaotic, and the place where the 9 Dragons battle pearl was located was in complete chaos. He didn't know what that Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu did to cause this place to be on the verge of collapse. Destroying the realm pearl was equivalent to destroying this part of the world. Even if those two fellows were lucky enough to survive this calamity, they would be completely lost in the chaotic void, drifting in the endless darkness. Bang! Suddenly, Jiu Fei felt the void in front of him tremble violently. In the next moment, a resplendent green saber light pierced through the void, cutting through the heaven and earth. It exuded boundless Buddhism energy as it slashed down on him. Roar! Despicable bald donkey! Jiu Fei was enraged. Even at this point, that little monk Fan Xiu still wanted to drag him down with him, forcing him out of the void. Jiu Fei stepped on the cauldron of mountain and river, shooting up into the sky. At the same time, he shook the cauldron of mountain and river, causing a powerful force to descend from the cauldron, shattering the peerless saber light. I won't go out, what can you do to me? Jiu Fei stood firmly above the 9-colored light pillar. Peng! A pitch-black giant pierced through the void and headed straight for Jiu Fei. The terrifying power of destruction obliterated the void and almost shattered the 9-colored light pillar. These two fellows. Jiu Fei couldn't help feeling shocked. The little monk Fan Xiu and the Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian were attacking him one after another, causing him to feel a great pressure. Jiu Fei sneered. With a thought, a wang. A sharp sword chime came from the outside. In the next moment, a purple sword light soared 10,000 zhong into the void like a giant purple dragon. The peerless sword light directly shattered the terrifying hand and flew toward Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei's hand reached out, grabbing the purple sword light in his hand. Then, the dazzling sword light dissipated, revealing a purple-gold divine sword in Jiu Fei's hand. Bang! As Jiu Fei retrieved the purple-gold divine sword, a deafening explosion came from the outside, followed by a terrifying aura, as if a terrifying heavenly beast had broken free from its cage. Roar! A dragon's roar could be heard, followed by a giant dragon struggling to rise into the sky. The aura emitted from the 9 dragons competing for the pearl was even more terrifying, as if it could destroy the heavens and earth, causing even the experts to shudder in fear. Shit! His retrieving the extreme Tao sacred weapons. 2 cries of alarm came from outside the hole in the void, and there was a hint of panic and nervousness in their voices. I'm retrieving the sacred weapons that are suppressing the 9 dragons competition, you can all die. Jiu Fei sneered and sat down on the cauldron of mountain and river. He circulated his primordial spirit to communicate with the other 3 extreme Tao sacred weapons, trying to summon them back. Chapter 662. Boom, boom, boom. The void shattered and the heavens and earth shook. The terrifying aura of the extreme Tao filled the air as the 3 extreme Tao sacred weapons broke through the void and charged into the 9-colored light pillar. The destructive energy waves made the earth demon Lord Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu pale with fright. They had no choice but to dodge, not daring to fight it head-on. Roar, roar, roar. 3 dragon roars were heard as the ancestral earth veins were completely revived. 3 giant dragons roared at the sky as the power of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl erupted. Rumble! The 9 ancestral earth veins were shaking violently. The dragon-shaped mountain range was about to turn into a dragon and charge out of the ground. Endless earth dragon chi surged out of the veins and formed into giant dragons. The 9 giant dragons circled above the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl. The dragon roars shook the heavens and the earth. The powerful pressure made one's heart palpitate. Even Jiyu Fei, who had not entered the Hell Realm, felt like his mind was on the verge of collapse. This force that was condensed from the heavens and earth was simply too powerful. It was even more powerful than the extreme divine might displayed by the extreme divine weapon of the extreme divine path. This was a terrifying power that could kill a supreme being. At this moment, the 3 realms Buddhist lamp, the saber of supremacy, the Buddhist bell of Sanskrit, and the purple-gold divine sword circled around Jiyu Fei and protected him within. The power of the 5 extreme Tao sacred weapons had cut off the 9-colored light pillar and the passage connecting the 2 realms. Are you two not going to die this time? Trying to trick me? Let's talk about that later. Jiyu Fei sat on the mountain and river cauldron. The 5 extreme Tao sacred weapons were protecting him. Even if an extreme Tao sacred master came, he would not be able to do anything to him. Swoosh! Jiyu Fei opened his immortal Tao divine eye and saw through the void, seeing everything outside. The immortal Tao divine eye was broken by little monk Fan Xiu's green jade ring blade. However, Jiyu Fei's muscles and bones were reconstructed and the damaged immortal Tao divine eye recovered. He hid in the void of primal chaos and watched this exciting show from the other side of the river. Where the realm bead was located, there were 9 ancient tablets erected in the surroundings. The ancient tablets emitted boundless Buddhist energy, and each of them had an illusory figure of a Buddha that protected the realm bead. The little monk Fan Xiu and the Earth Archdevil Lord, Ying Tian, were standing outside the 9 stone steles, bombarding the stone steles with attacks. They wanted to break through the stone steles' restrictions and take away the realm beads. At this moment, the completely revived 9 dragons competing for the pearl displayed a terrifying momentum. 9 giant dragons soared towards the realm pearl at the same time. Boom! A gigantic dragon claw slashed down from the skies towards the earth demonic lord Ying Tian. The terrifying strength of the claw directly tore apart a part of the void. The power of the earth ancestor dragon, which had completely awakened, was extremely strong. The terrifying waves that it emitted were comparable to the power of the extreme path. Roar! The earth demonic lord Ying Tian roared with unwillingness. He directly tore apart the void and dodged to the side. A demonic diagram appeared above his head, exuding a terrifying demonic energy that protected him. The powerful aura emitted by the 9 dragons was comparable to that of an extreme-grade expert. The power contained in the Earth Ancestor's vein of this world was extremely powerful. Damn it! Since I can't get it, none of you can either. The Earth Demonic Lord Ying Tian roared madly. The demonic diagram hovering above his head suddenly rushed into his body. As soon as the demonic diagram entered his body, Ying Tian's demonic physique transformed into a towering mountain that stood between heaven and earth. Boundless demonic energy surged out from his demonic physique, shattering the space around him. An extremely frightening wave of energy rippled out from the 10,000 feet tall demonic body. It was as if a demonic god of creation had appeared. It was so powerful that it was unimaginable. How is this possible? Jiyu Fei's face paled when he saw this scene through the immortal Tao divine eye. He had no idea what kind of heaven-defying secret art this old devil used to restore his invincible strength at his peak. This was definitely an invincible force that could contend with an extreme powerhouse. Kill! The Earth Demon Lord let out a furious roar. He reached out and grabbed a huge dragon that was charging at him. Then, he tore the huge dragon into 2. Bang! Ying Tian punched out, directly exploding the head of one of the giant dragons. The violent force of the punch caused the giant dragon to explode, its body disintegrating into nothingness in the void. After merging with the demonic diagram, the Earth Demonic Lord Ying Tian's strength was unparalleled, shattering 2 giant dragons formed from the Earth Ancestor Dragon's Earth Vein Chi. The place where the 9 dragons fight for the pearl was shaking violently. The 9 great ancestral dragon veins kept on surging with draconic chi. The 2 dragons that had been shattered reformed again. Ying Tian was putting his life on the line, he had no choice but to do so. If he didn't, he wouldn't even have the chance to do so. The boundless devil might shook the 9 dragons' battle pearl ground, but to Ying Tian, this was definitely not a good thing. The terrifying might gathered at the 9 dragons' battle pearl ground was aimed at Ying Tian, trying to destroy him. The little monk Fan Xiu took advantage of this opportunity to attack the 9 ancient tablets surrounding the realm pearl. To Ji Yufei's surprise, the 9 ancient tablets were able to withstand the green jade ring saber's slashes. Although the green jade ring saber managed to strike the tablets, it couldn't break the seal formed by the 9 ancient tablets. On each of the 9 ancient tablets, the silhouette of a Buddha emerged, displaying the charm of the great Tao to protect the realm pearl. Seeing that his attacks were ineffective, the little monk Fan Xiu seemed to have thought of something. Using the green jade ring saber, he made a small cut on his wrist. Golden Buddha blood spurted out from the little monk's wrist, splattering onto the 9 ancient tablets. When the Buddha's blood landed on the ancient tablets, it actually seeped into the 9 ancient tablets. After that, the 9 illusory figures of the Buddha that appeared on the 9 ancient tablets seemed to have come to life as they rushed out from the ancient tablets. After the 9 Buddha silhouettes rushed out from the 9 ancient tablets, they converged toward the little monk Fan Xiu and entered his body. Boom! Boundless Buddha light erupted from the little monk Fan Xiu's body. A terrifying aura of the extreme Tao spread out from his body. The little monk Fan Xiu was like the eternal Buddha Lord who had been reborn, displaying his supreme extreme Tao's divine might. This was the power of the extreme Tao, the eternal Buddha Lord's extreme Tao erupted from his body. The little monk Fan Xiu possessed the eternal Buddha Lord's invincible power. At the most crucial moment, the eternal Buddha Lord actually left such a monstrous trump card for his disciples. Chapter 663. Ji Yufei hid in the middle of the Chaos Void Flower with the protection of the 5 great saint artifacts. He was incomparably shocked. The little monk Fan Xiu and the Earth Archdevil Lord Ying Tian actually had such a terrifying trump card, it was inconceivable. These characters that survived the ancient times had heaven-defying means that were hard to comprehend. Ji Yufei thought about it and felt relieved. If these super antiques didn't have some heaven-defying capabilities, how could they have survived so many tribulations and survived until now? That gigantic demonic body stood tall between the heavens and earth, causing the entire hell path to tremble violently. It was as though doomsday had arrived. It was extremely terrifying. Terrifying demonic aura enveloped the entire heavens and earth. Demonic energy was boundless, spreading to every inch of space in the hell path. After merging with the demonic diagram, the Earth Demonic Lord Ying Tian revealed his true demonic form. His head reached the heavens, his feet stomped on the ground, and endless devil chi gushed out from his mouth and eyes. Roar! The terrifying true demon roared furiously towards the sky, causing a part of the universe to instantly collapse. With a single roar, even Ji Yufei, who was hiding in the primal chaos void, felt threatened. If it wasn't for the mountain river cauldron suppressing this part of the primal chaos void, the primal chaos void that Ji Yufei was hiding in would have shattered, and he would have been directly knocked out of the primal chaos void. Bang! A fist as huge as a mountain blasted out, piercing through the heavens and earth. A huge black hole appeared, and a huge dragon was blasted apart in the void. The endless dragon energy of the earth was devoured by the black hole. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, was the Earth Demon Lord of the 5 Elements Demon Lords. He possessed the terrifying Devil Tao innate ability that allowed him to transform the energy of the earth into demonic energy. The battle of the 9 dragons for the pearl had instead provided him with endless power. However, the giant dragon formed by the Earth Ancestor Vein Qi did not truly disappear. The giant dragon that was blasted apart by Ying Tian reformed once more, soaring into the sky and pouncing down on Ying Tian. As long as the Earth Ancestor Vein Qi was not destroyed, the 9 giant dragons would not disappear. Roar! 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 The dragon's roar shook the heavens. The 9 Earth Ancestor Veins seemed to have sensed danger as well and began to shake violently. Endless earth energy gathered from all directions. The ancestral Earth Meridian was extracting the power of the earth in the entire Hell Tao. The 9 winding mountains that looked like giant dragons were struggling violently, and the earth undulated violently like waves. The 9 ancestral veins were the source of the earth veins of the Naraka Tao. They were the ancestors of all the earth energy in the Naraka Tao. All the earth energy in the entire Naraka Tao had been triggered. All the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the hell realm was gathering towards the center of this world of death. The ground was cracking and the mountains were collapsing. Even in the unknown region where the divine spring of life was being nurtured, the spiritual chi was being drained rapidly. The divine spring of life had dried up, and the entire region had become a land of death, devoid of life. Even special life forms like the undead creatures could no longer be seen. Heaven and earth shook violently. The energy waves emitted from the 9 dragons competing for the pearl grew stronger and stronger, as if an extreme expert was awakening. The 9 giant dragons seemed to be condensing into the ancestral dragon true body, turning from illusory to corporeal, turning into flesh and blood. The power of the earth ancestor veins was raised to the limit, as if the 9 ancestral dragons were awakening. Ying Tian revealed his true demon body, using a heaven-defying secret art to trigger the power of the extreme Tao. He wanted to shatter the 9 ancestral veins, but the earth ancestor veins had gathered the power of heaven and earth. He couldn't shatter the 9 ancestral veins in a short time. And at this time, the phantoms of Buddhas that rushed out from the 9 ancient stone tablets around the boundary pearl had already rushed into little monk Fan Shio's body. Amidst the boundless Buddha radiance, there seemed to be endless Sanskrit hymns and the heavenly dragon Buddha chant reverberating in the air. Auspicious Buddha energy surged violently, making the 9 dragons competing for the pearl even more peaceful. Rumble. The 9 ancient stone tablets that resembled mountains flickered with Buddha runes as they slowly rose from the ground. Preposterous. Ji Yufei couldn't help feeling shocked watching this scene. Little monk Fan Shio was currently removing the seal on the boundary pearl, trying to take it away. Little monk Fan Shio had obtained the power of the ancient Buddhist Lord's seal on the ancient stone tablets. It was as if the Buddhist Lord himself was here. He was definitely not that little monk's opponent. What should he do? Ji Yufei was panicking. Could it be that he could only watch helplessly as that little bald donkey Fan Shio took away the boundary pearl? Absolutely not. Even if he couldn't win, he still had to make a move. At worst, he would just destroy the boundary pearl, and everyone would part ways. Just as Ji Yufei was about to lose the bait, someone else made a move. Roar. Ying Tian seemed to have also sensed the disturbance in the boundary pearl. After tearing apart one of the giant dragons, he immediately turned around and roared in anger, sending a palm strike at little monk Fan Shio. Peng! A pitch-black demonic palm the size of a mountain shattered the heaven and earth, slamming down on little monk Fan Shio in an instant. Boundless Buddha luminescence dissipated, the terrifying demonic energy obliterated everything. Ying Tian, who had recovered his invincible cultivation, stomped on the ground, his battle prowess was unstoppable. Even the fully awakened ancestral earth vein couldn't contend against him. The innate gods born from the creation of heaven and earth were undoubtedly the strongest existences in the heavens and earth, standing at the peak of all living beings. Other than extreme Tao experts, they were probably invincible. Boom! A golden Buddha palm shot out from the boundless Buddha luminescence, clashing with the pitch-black demonic palm. In the center of the Buddha palm, a swastika symbol revolved, exuding the power of the great Tao. Rumble. The Buddha palm and devil palm collided like 2 primordial divine mountains crashing into each other. Before these 2 forces, the void between heaven and earth was as fragile as a thin piece of paper, directly collapsing and shattering. Between Ying Tian and little monk Fan Shio, the energy of destruction and Buddha luminescence enveloped the heaven and earth, turning the void into chaos. The resulting shockwaves nearly caused the 9 dragons' battle pearl to collapse. Little monk Fan Shio and Ying Tian were sent flying back. The 9 ancient monuments trembled violently before slowly descending to the ground, sealing the space around the realm pearl. The power of the great Tao shrouded the realm pearl, sealing it within. Want to take the realm pearl? Have you asked for my permission? The earth demonic ancestor's voice was cold. He stopped retreating and took a step forward. With every step he took, the earth trembled violently. His killing intent soared to the sky as he sent another palm strike forward. Rumble, boundless demonic energy surged out from Ying Tian's palm, exuding the power of the ancestral earth vein. Like a black demonic dragon, it lunged at little monk Fan Xiu. Buddha and I are together, slay all evil demons. Little monk Fan Xiu's voice resounded through the air. Following that, a giant Buddha emerged from the boundless Buddha luminescence, as if a Buddha Lord himself had arrived, exuding the power of the great Tao. Shua. The Buddha raised his saber and slashed down. The dark green saber light tore through the heaven and earth, traversing tens of thousands of zhong horizontally, slashing down on the 10,000 zhong tall demonic body. The Buddha displayed the supreme might of a Buddhist weapon. Fight! Fight! Ha ha ha! Jiyu Fei hid in the chaotic void, sitting cross-legged on top of the mountain and river cauldron. The three realms Buddhist lamp, the ominous saber, the Buddhist bell of Sanskrit, and the violet gold divine sword hovered around him. He was watching the show. The battle between the two great extreme grade experts was too exciting. The two great extreme grade experts could shatter the void of heaven and earth with just a lift of their hands and feet and pierce through the world. A demon and a Buddha clashed with one another. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, unleashed many demonic diagrams from his demonic body, blocking all the green saber lights that came slashing at him. Both of them had temporarily obtained supreme power, and each of them displayed their extreme divine might. It was as if two devil Buddhas were fighting each other, and the 9 dragons condensed from the ancestral earth chi were all blown away. This terrifying scene couldn't be described with the words heaven and earth shattering. The momentum of the 9 dragons competing for the pearl could no longer restrain Ying Tian and the little monk Fan Xiu. The entire Forbidden Land was nearly destroyed from the impact. If it weren't for the 9 ancient stone tablets protecting the center of the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl, this place known as the Hell Dao's No. 1 Forbidden Land would have collapsed by now. In the center of the 9 stone tablets, a 9-colored divine pearl about 100 zhong in diameter floated. Above the divine pearl, there were images of mountains and rivers, wind, clouds, thunder, and rain. Wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, rain, snow, frost, all kinds of phenomena were changing on the boundary pearl. This was the projection of a world. The boundary pearl was the origin of heaven and earth, sealed in the center of the Hell Dao. The projection above the boundary pearl was a world full of vitality. From the projection above the boundary pearl, one could tell that the Hell Dao used to be a perfect world. However, the current Hell Dao had turned into a land of death, devoid of the vitality it once had. As long as someone could control the boundary pearl, this land of death would be reopened, and the perfect world covered in dust would reappear. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, and little monk Fan Xiu didn't want the boundary pearl to be affected. Both of them consciously moved away from the boundary pearl. Those two fellows, do they think I can't break the boundary pearl's seal? Jiyu Fei's heart skipped a beat as he witnessed this scene with his immortal Dao divine eye. This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Earth Demon Lord, Ying Tian, and little monk Fan Xiu were fighting far away, giving Jiyu Fei the perfect opportunity. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Jiyu Fei no longer hesitated. He stood up from the mountain and river cauldron, his eyes emitting a blinding light. Like a supreme battle ancestor descending, he stepped on the mountain and river cauldron and charged out from the chaotic void. Without the obstruction of the saint artifact, the boundary pearl's 9-colored divine light once again soared into the sky, piercing through the void and connecting the two worlds. Boom! The entire 9 dragons vying for the pearl shook violently. The mountain and river cauldron was like 100,000 mountains pressing down. Primordial chaos chi surged, causing the 9 stone tablets to shake violently. Endless aura of the great Tao rushed out from the stone tablets, forming a vast Tao energy that sealed the boundary pearl and blocked the descending cauldron. Chapter 664. Preposterous. Those two fellows are truly fearless. Ying Tian's words rang in Jiyu Fei's mind, causing Jiyu Fei to curse under his breath. Boom! The terrifying demonic phantoms and the golden Buddha avatar battled fiercely, the resulting shockwaves pierced through heaven and earth, causing the entire Hell Dao to tremble. Wherever the shockwaves passed, even one of the great earth ancestral veins was broken. Boundless earth spirit chi burst out from the 9 dragons competing for the pearl and spread out in all directions. This spirit chi was vast and mighty, dispersing the dark clouds and fog between the heavens and earth, causing the sky and stars to reappear. Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu directly broke out of the 9 dragons competition for the pearl, rushing out from the 9 dragons competition for the pearl. They weren't worried that Ji Yufei would be able to break the seal. The 9 dragons competition for the pearl was pierced through, one of the 9 great earth ancestral veins was destroyed. The heaven and earth spiritual energy that had been accumulating in the 9 dragons competition for the pearl for so many years began to leak out. With the 9 dragons competition for the pearl as the center, heaven and earth spiritual energy surged out, spreading out to the entire Hell Dao. The death chi that shrouded this world began to dissipate. The sky that had been shrouded by dark clouds and fog for an unknown amount of time appeared once more, specks of starlight sprinkled down from the heavens. As the death chi receded, vitality returned, heaven and earth opened up once more. However, Ji Yufei didn't pay any attention to the changes in the world. Standing on top of the mountain and river cauldron, he summoned the violet gold divine sword and slashed down at the seal. Swoosh! A resplendent sword light soared up 1,000 zhong, like a heavenly sword, splitting the world in half. The terrifying sword chi caused the seal to flicker with blinding light. Peng! The violet gold divine sword heavily slashed down on the light barrier, causing the 9 stone tablets to tremble violently. Buddhist runes appeared on the surface of the stone tablets, and the aura of the great Tao circulated around them. Ji Yufei felt a great force coming from the violet gold divine sword, nearly knocking the sword out of his hand. The light barrier rippled like water, but it didn't shatter. This is even harder than the old tortoise's tortoise shell are. Ji Yufei was endlessly shocked. Even the extreme path holy weapon could not split it open. Could it be that an extreme path powerhouse really had to personally come to be able to break this seal? If the two of them had decided on a winner and were free to deal with him, he could only retreat. He touched it. Ji Yufei gritted his teeth as a ruthless expression appeared on his face. Then, rays of divine light shot out from his body as countless divine runes emerged on his supreme immortal physique. His power instantly increased by 10 times. Terrifying energy ripples gushed out from Ji Yufei's body, shaking the heavens and the earth. Even the 9 ancient monuments were affected by the impact, trembling slightly. Roar! Ji Yufei roared at the sky, his long hair fluttering in the wind. His eyes shot out 2 beams of light that were like divine lightning. The blood in his body surged, and the divine power of the immortal Tao towered into the sky. At this moment, Ji Yufei channeled the Heaven Ascension secret technique and increased his strength to a level infinitely close to that of an extreme path powerhouse. Then, he stepped on the cauldron of mountain and river and slowly pressed down on the monument seals. It was as if hundreds of thousands of ancient mountains were descending from the sky. The sky was crumbling and the earth was collapsing. The 9 monuments were under the greatest impact and began to shine with a Buddhist light that was never seen before. Bang! The mountain river cauldron suppressed the sealing light screen formed by the 9 ancient tablets. Primordial chaos chi swept down like a chaotic world, enveloping the seal formed by the 9 ancient tablets. This was the ancestral energy that existed before the creation of the world, the root of all living things. The chaotic primordial energy was vast and was slowly wearing down the endless Buddhist power on the monuments. Rumble! The 9 monuments shook violently as cracks began to appear on them. The chaotic primordial energy was the root of all living things in this world and could assimilate all types of energy and spiritual energy. I don't believe that I can't break this seal. Ji Yufei desperately urged the cauldron of mountain and river. The cauldron of mountain and river shook violently, displaying its extreme power. Boom! The 9 ancient steles were immediately suppressed to the ground. The power of the great path that flowed from the ancient steles began to weaken, and the Buddha patterns and Buddha seals that appeared began to dim. Ji Yufei was inwardly overjoyed. This chaotic primordial energy was the bane of all seals and arrays are. I didn't expect a little brat like you to have this trick up your sleeve. Just as Ji Yufei was celebrating, Ying Tian's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. In the next second, Ji Yufei felt a terrifying aura of danger rapidly approaching him. Bang! A giant black hand slammed down from afar, sending Ji Yufei flying. Devil Qi surged as a terrifying demonic figure appeared in front of the 9 monuments. Ying Tian, Ji Yufei roared in anger. He was sent flying for more than 10 li before he managed to stabilize himself. A drop of divine blood dripped down from the corner of his mouth. The 3 realms Buddhist lamp, the ominous saber, and the Sanskrit Buddhist bell hovered around Ji Yufei's body, displaying their extreme power to block Ying Tian's attack. But even so, Ji Yufei still suffered from the impact. If it weren't for the saint artifact blocking Ying Tian's attack, Ji Yufei's immortal physique would have been blown to smithereens, and his soul would have dissipated. An extreme Tao master was simply too powerful. Killing supreme existences was like killing ants. The boundary pearl is not something you can touch. Scram if you don't want to die. Ying Tian's true devil physique was akin to a towering mountain in front of the ancient monument seal. His eyes were like 2 bottomless devil holes, emitting a devilish light that caused one's heart to palpitate as he stared at Ji Yufei. Boom! Space shattered as a Buddha walked out in large strides. Everywhere he passed, heaven and earth turned into chaos. The little monk Fan Xiu revealed his heavenly Buddha true body, pressing down on Ying Tian. Damn it! Ji Yufei stood on the mountain and river cauldron with the violet gold divine sword in his hand, pointing it at Ji Yufei. If you want to kill me, let's see if you have the ability or not. Activating the ascending heaven secret art, Ji Yufei maintained a state infinitely close to the extreme Tao. His battle intent was unparalleled, and his killing intent surged like a rainbow. So what if he was an extreme Tao master? Good, you have guts, only then are you qualified to be my opponent. Ying Tian said. Seeing that Ji Yufei didn't run away, he was a little surprised. Demon, die. The little monk Fan Xiu had already arrived. Heavenly Buddha sacred region, he bellowed, directly tearing space apart, opening up a new world that enveloped Ying Tian. Rumble, space shattered as the new world expanded. It was a world filled with peace and tranquility. Heavenly flowers fell from the sky, golden lotuses bloomed on the ground, and Buddhist chants resounded in the air. It was a Buddhist land, just like the pure land of bliss in legends. Complete. Endless purgatory, Ying Tian sneered, turning around and unleashing a world filled with devil qi. Devil qi surged violently, as if there were countless devils howling and dancing in the air, terrifying to the extreme. The 2 worlds collided, cancelling each other out. Mountains crumbled, the earth cracked, and the place where the 2 worlds came into contact turned into chaos. Destructive energy surged violently. Chapter 665. The battle between 2 extreme Tao experts was terrifying to the extreme. The shockwaves from their battle destroyed everything in their path, even the ancient monument seal trembled. One had to admit that the seal laid down by the Buddhist lord was too powerful, even a supreme expert would find it hard to break it. Only an extreme Tao expert could break it. Rumble, a Buddhist land and a devil land collided. This was a clash between Buddha and devil. The Buddhist land emitted a boundless Buddhist energy, while the devil land emitted a towering demonic aura. The void between heaven and earth was torn apart, the aura of destruction permeated the air. The little monk Fan Xiu and the earth archdevil Lord Ying Tian were evenly matched, neither could suppress the other. The 9 monuments shook violently, Buddhist runes emerged, and the energy of the great Tao surged, protecting the boundary pearl. The residual energy from the battle between the 2 extreme Tao experts couldn't threaten the boundary pearl. At this moment, Ji Yufei did not retreat. He coldly stared at the battle between the Buddha and the demon. Then, as if he had made up his mind, the Buddhist lamp of the 3 realms, the Buddhist bell of Sanskrit, and the ominous saber that were revolving around Ji Yufei suddenly entered his body. The violet gold divine sword also disappeared, fused into his right hand, while the mountain and river cauldron under his feet sank into Ji Yufei's chest. He didn't simply put the 5 extreme Tao divine weapons into his body, but used the weapon body refinement art to fuse the 5 extreme Tao saint weapons into his body. In Ji Yufei's right hand, there was a faint shadow of a violet sword, while in his left was an ominous saber. The mountain and river cauldron emerged from his body, protecting him. Ji Yufei stood on the Three Realms Buddhist lamp and Buddhist bell. After fusing the 5 extreme Dao Saint weapons, Ji Yufei was akin to a supreme killing machine formed from extreme Dao Saint weapons. Shua. Huang Xiaolong directly vanished from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already behind Ying Tian's 10,000 Zhong devil physique. With a wave of his right hand, a resplendent purple sword qi shot out, slashing at Ying Tian's waist. The terrifying sword qi soared into the sky, the brilliant sword light dimmed the world. Ying Tian sneered, not even bothering to turn around, his palm struck out behind him. He didn't put Ji Yufei in his eyes at all. Boundless devilish energy surged towards Ji Yufei from all directions. Buzz. The sound of the sword resonated through the heavens. The purple-gold divine sword that had been melted into Ji Yufei's right hand displayed extreme divine might. It slashed through the void and directly dispersed the surging palm force with great momentum. This. Ying Tian was taken aback. Swoosh. A beam of devilish light shot out from Ying Tian's body. Within the devilish light was a devilish diagram, sealing off all 4 directions, blocking the violet gold divine sword's attack. Kill. Ji Yufei let out a crazed roar, his long hair dancing in the wind, resembling a crazed war demon as he charged toward Ying Tian. Executing the 8 desolate steps, he appeared directly above Ying Tian's head. Pang! Ji Yufei's foot stomped down, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. A Buddhist lamp appeared on Ji Yufei's right leg, and with a loud bang, the 3-colored Buddhist fire burst out, enveloping Ying Tian from all directions. Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish. Ying Tian's chilling words caused one's heart to palpitate. Boom! Ying Tian's palm struck out, meeting the tricolored Buddhist fire head-on. The powerful force shattered the Buddhist fire, piercing through the void. Ji Yufei screamed in fear. The void around him shattered under Ying Tian's power, and he was sent flying into the primal chaos void. Ying Tian wanted to borrow the power of the primal chaos void to kill Ji Yufei. After refining the 5 great saint artifacts into his body, Ji Yufei's strength reached its peak, allowing him to display the supreme might of a saint artifact. Boom! Ji Yufei directly rushed out from the primal chaos void, attacking Ying Tian. His hands danced in the air, the phantom of a sword and saber emerged above Ji Yufei's hands, emitting a dazzling light. Like 2 fierce primordial dragons, they slashed towards Ying Tian. The current Ji Yufei was circulating the Ascension secret art continuously, and with the 5 great saint artifacts in his body, he was strong enough to contend against an invincible extreme Dao master. The 5 great saint artifacts displayed their divine might, equivalent to an extreme Dao master personally attacking. Terrifying sword and saber qi tore through the void, shattering the heavens and earth. The residual power released from their attacks was enough to make all living beings tremble in fear. Shadows of demonic diagrams rushed out from Ying Tian's body, blocking the saber and the purple-gold divine sword. Rumble! The devil domain around him was collapsing. Fighting 1 against 2, Ying Tian gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. Roar! Ying Tian threw his head back and roared, demonic qi surged from his body. He was getting impatient, he couldn't maintain his invincible state forever. Once his strength waned, his life would be in danger. The great devil displayed its supreme might, fighting against Fan Xiu, the little monk, and Ji Yufei. Terrifying energy pierced through heaven and earth, creating a bottomless black hole. Kill! 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 Ji Yufei let out a thunderous roar, circulating the immortal Dao God force in his body with all his might, inciting the power of the extreme Dao Saint weapon that had been refined into his body, clashing fiercely with Ying Tian, causing the devil domain around Ying Tian to crumble. He didn't use his inner world because the divine race, the old tortoise, and the others were inside. If he used his inner world, the people inside would be in danger. 3 terrifying existences that could display the strength of an extreme Dao master fought fiercely in the 9 dragons battle for the pearl. Ji Yufei was in a frenzy. Swish! 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 He slashed out 3 times at Ying Tian, forcing him back. Then, he used the 8 desolate steps to stomp down on Fan Xiu's bald head. Dang! A melodious bell chime resounded. An ancient bronze bell appeared above Ji Yufei's left foot. The chime wasn't loud, but it shook heaven and earth. Transparent ripples visible to the naked eye spread out from Jiu Fei's left foot. This was the sound-killing technique. Terrifying sound waves spread out, causing the void to ripple violently. The little monk Fan Xiu decisively retreated, at the same time using his heaven and earth energy to block the terrifying sound waves. Rumble. The mountains trembled from the bell chime. Even the 8 giant dragons circling above the 9 dragons' battle for the pearl were affected, falling from the sky. At this time, Ying Tian's silhouette appeared soundlessly behind Jiu Fei, punching out with his fist. A resplendent devilish light burst out from his fist, as if a black sun had appeared high up in the sky. Buzz. Just as Ying Tian's fist was about to land on Jiu Fei's back, the mountain and river cauldron emerged from Jiu Fei's body. Dang! The mountain and river cauldron shook violently, sending Jiu Fei flying. However, with the mountain and river cauldron's protection, Jiu Fei didn't suffer any heavy injuries. Nevertheless, a trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The Rising Heaven Secret ART's 3-minute time limit had long passed, but Jiu Fei was still channeling the Rising Heaven Secret art. He was overdrafting the life force of his supreme immortal physique. Even if I have to give up this supreme immortal physique, I still have to fight. Jiu Fei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His killing intent soared to the sky, and his killing intent soared to the sky. Once again, he charged toward Fan Xiu and Ying Tian. Chapter 666. Swoosh. Swoosh. Ying Tian and the little monk Fan Xiu soared into the sky, standing in their respective inner worlds. Then, they made their moves against Jiu Fei. Terrifying devil qi and Buddhist energy surged out from the devil domain and Buddhist land, gushing towards Jiu Fei like 2 great rivers, one black and one gold. Rumble. As if the heavenly river had been turned upside down, the entire place was trembling. Buzz. The cauldron of mountain and river appeared on Jiu Fei's body. Chaotic primordial qi surged as his right hand slapped towards little monk Fan Xiu's Buddhist energy. Swoosh. A dazzling purple-gold sword light soared into the sky, breaking through the boundless Buddhist energy that was rushing over like a golden river. It soared into the sky, avoiding the pitch-black demonic energy that descended from the sky, and charged into little monk Fan Xiu's inner world. The peerless blade light shot out and rushed for thousands of miles, slashing towards the little monk Fan Xiu who was standing among the Buddhas. The void was split and torn apart. The inner world of the little monk Fan Xiu was shaking violently. Myriad Buddhas greeting. Little monk Fan Xiu put his palms together and shouted. Boundless Buddhist energy erupted from his body. He instantly connected with this part of the world, as if he had become one with this part of the Buddhist land. Among the boundless Buddhist light, phantoms of Buddhas appeared in the void, and they all reached out their palms, slapping towards Jiu Fei who had rushed into his inner world. Boom! Resplendent Buddhist light erupted, so blinding that Jiu Fei couldn't open his eyes. Within the blinding Buddhist light, swastikas condensed and rushed towards Jiu Fei. Every swastika contained the aura of the Great Tao. Little monk Fan Xiu activated the power of the Great Tao, and it was as if thousands of Buddhas were attacking Jiu Fei at the same time. The Buddhist energy was vast and terrifying to the extreme. Heaven shadowing palm. Jiu Fei roared as well. He struck out with his palm, and the boundless divine power of the immortal Tao triggered the extreme divine might of the violet gold divine sword. Wang. The sound of the sword resonated through the 9 heavens. A huge purple gold hand enveloped the heavens and the earth, blocking the sky as it met the endless Buddhist light. This was the heaven-shrouding palm formed by fusing his own immortal god power with the violet gold divine sword's unparalleled sword qi. Rumble. Heaven and earth were collapsing, and Jiu Fei rushed out of little monk Fan Xiu's inner world. Bam! A pitch-black hand broke through heaven and earth, directly blasting into little monk Fan Xiu's inner world, slapping down on little monk Fan Xiu who was standing in the Buddhist land. A beautiful mountain range turned into a chaotic void. It turned out that Ying Tian also saw an opportunity to attack little monk Fan Xiu. Little monk Fan Xiu dodged to the side. His inner world was heavily damaged, forcing him to retreat temporarily. Whereas Jiu Fei turned around and charged into Ying Tian's devil domain. With the mountain and river cauldron protecting him, Ji Fei stood on the Buddhist lamp of the three realms and the Buddhist bell of Brahma. The purple-gold divine sword and peerless saber appeared in his hands, and his extreme divine might shook the devil domain. The tricolored Buddhist fire burned through the void, dispersing the boundless demonic energy. The Buddhist bell of Brahma's tolls shattered a mountain range. The peerless saber and purple-gold divine sword clashed relentlessly with the devil diagram. Rumble. The devil domain shook violently. Ying Tian was drawing upon the heaven and earth energy to form a terrifying demonic light that pierced towards Ji Fei. This was his inner world, and in here, Ying Tian was the ruler of everything. Buzz. The mountain river cauldron shook and a visible ripple spread out from Ji Fei's body like a wave. The destructive demonic light that had pierced through the cauldron completely shattered in the void. The mountain and river cauldron exuded an extreme divine might capable of suppressing the mountains and rivers, causing cracks to appear in the space around the devil domain, as if it was on the verge of collapse. Ji Fei's ferocity was a complete mess. After fusing the 5 great saint artifacts into his body, although he wasn't a true extreme Dao expert, he still possessed the strength of one. His battle with Ying Tian went on endlessly, blood seeped out from his 7 orifices. His appearance was terrifying to the extreme, causing one's heart to palpitate. Ever since he started using the Heaven Ascension secret art, Ji Fei had maintained his peak state without stopping. He was burning his life essence to increase his strength. He was throwing caution to the wind. The supreme immortal physique's life essence was burning, causing a blazing divine flame to rise from his body. He was burning his life essence in exchange for invincible power. Of course, what he was burning was only the supreme immortal physique's life essence, not Ji Fei's. He had already prepared for the worst-case scenario, which was to give up on this supreme immortal physique. Fusing the supreme immortal physique into the 5 great saint artifacts was already a stretch. The extreme divine might of the saint artifacts caused cracks to appear on the supreme immortal physique. Following the rapid consumption of life essence, more and more cracks appeared on the supreme immortal physique. "You've gone mad." The Earth Archdevil Lord bellowed in anger and shock. Ji Fei was actually risking his life against him, as if he wanted to take him down with him. Chaotic demonic universe. Ying Tian bellowed, his body became one with heaven and earth, instantly drawing in the power of the entire devil domain. An unfathomable energy fluctuation erupted from his body. Space twisted. Heaven and earth changed. Ji Fei felt the world spinning around him, his body lost its balance. Bang! Ying Tian punched out, directly knocking the dazed Ji Fei out of the devil domain. The mountain and river cauldron blocked the majority of the fist force, but Ji Fei's supreme immortal physique was still affected. Ji Fei opened his mouth, spitting out a mouthful of immortal God's blood. His supreme immortal physique was on the verge of breaking apart, and the mountain and river cauldron that was fused into his body nearly flew out. Swoosh! Suddenly, a dark green saber light appeared, traversing heaven and earth, directly piercing through the devil domain, slashing down on Ying Tian's head. Little monk Fan Xiu seized this chance to make his move. Ying Tian instantly disappeared from the spot, evading that resplendent saber light. Then, a devil diagram rushed out from the devil domain, spreading out to cover heaven and earth, aiming at little monk Fan Xiu, wanting to suck him into the diagram. Endless demonic power poured down from the demonic diagram. The power of the great path of the demonic path was surging. Fan Xiu's inner world was collapsing. The demonic diagram emitted a terrifying power, and it actually wanted to take away Fan Xiu's inner world. Swoosh! After stabilizing his momentum, Ji Fei immediately used a teleportation technique, appearing in front of the 9 ancient monuments. Bang! Boundless primordial chaos energy surged out from his body, gathering on his fist. Bang! Like a chaotic star falling from the sky, Ji Fei's fist smashed into the seal on the ancient tablet. The primal chaos energy swept away everything in its path, directly breaking through the seal's power. Ji Fei's fist smashed into the seal's light screen. Not good. Not good. Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu paled, no longer bothering to attack each other. Both of them lunged at Ji Fei. Even before they arrived, they had already sent out a large amount of energy towards Jiu Fei. Chapter 667. Roar. Jiu Fei was like a primal chaos god. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and the primal chaos chi surged from his body. After he punched through the seal on the ancient tablet, he reached out to grab the divine light of the seal and tore a hole in the light curtain formed by the power of the seal. Swoosh. A divine light rushed out from the violet dantian of the supreme immortal physique. Inside the divine light was a figure that directly rushed into the seal on the tablet. Damn it! Damn it! Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu's faces paled at the sight. A pitch-black devil hand as large as a mountain slammed down on Jiu Fei, a terrifying force sealed and shattered a part of the world. Swoosh! A resplendent saber light seemed to descend from the heavens, slashing down on Jiu Fei's waist in an instant, wanting to cut him in half. The terrifying saber chi tore through the void, shattering the world, sharp to the extreme. Soul snatch. Jiu Fei ignored Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu's terrifying attack. With a loud shout, a ball of divine light shot out from his forehead. Within the ball of divine light, there seemed to be a vague silhouette. Jiu Fei's divine soul rushed out and a powerful soul force rippled in the air. The divine light wrapped around Jiu Fei's divine soul and rushed into the seal on the ancient tablet. Boom! Ying Tian's giant palm slammed heavily on Jiu Fei's body. The bone-chilling sound of bones breaking resounded in the air. Jiu Fei's back was almost completely shattered, his spine was broken into 7 or 8 pieces. Pu. Blood splattered in all directions, specks of divine blood emitting a demonic red glow. A monk's saber mercilessly slashed into Jiu Fei's waist, nearly splitting Jiu Fei's body in half. Jiu Fei's peerless immortal physique suffered unprecedented damage. Roar. Jiu Fei bellowed, turning around abruptly. His hands reached out, grabbing Ying Tian and little monk Fan Xiu, pulling them toward him. Go to hell! Jiu Fei roared madly. Then, rays of divine light shot out from his body. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded in the air. Jiu Fei's peerless immortal physique abruptly exploded, erupting with a terrifying energy that enveloped Ying Tian and the little monk Fan Xiu. The destructive energy destroyed everything. A mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the sky collapsed. Dust billowed, as if doomsday had arrived. A ball of divine light, like a hazy small world, rushed out of the destructive storm and disappeared into the seal of the ancient tablet. No one would have thought that Jiu Fei would self-destruct his peerless immortal physique. A destructive force swept out in all directions. 5 out of the 9 ancient monoliths were destroyed in an instant. Half of the seals on the monoliths were destroyed, and the realm jewel was also affected. However, just as the boundary pearl was about to be destroyed, 9 towering divine pillars rushed out from the boundary pearl, protecting it. The 9 divine pillars were shrouded in the aura of the great Tao, and countless divine runes of the immortal Tao emerged from them. The 9 divine pillars trembled violently, resisting the destructive energy from the self-destruction of the peerless immortal physique. Roar! Roar! 2 angry roars resounded. Little monk Fan Xiu and the earth demon Lord Ying Tian rushed out from the destructive energy storm, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. Swoosh! 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 5 divine lights shot out in all directions, disappearing into the sky. These were the 5 great saint treasures that Jiu Fei had refined into his body. They scattered throughout the purgatory Tao. The entire purgatory Tao trembled violently, as if it could collapse at any time, as if doomsday had arrived. The place where the 9 dragons competing for the pearl was destroyed. The remaining 8 earth ancestral veins were scattered by the terrifying power that was capable of destroying the world. The spiritual chi of the earth exploded and dissipated in the entire hell path. The aura of death in the purgatory Tao quickly dissipated. Uwa! All of you deserve to die. A furious roar rang out from the 9 heavenly pillars. Then, a towering demonic aura erupted from within. Old tortoise, kill them for me. A weak voice sounded. A door appeared on the seal formed by the 9 towering divine pillars. A stalwart figure rushed out from the 9 pillars. Then, the door on the seal disappeared. It turned out that the 9 towering divine pillars had been taken away by Jiyu Fei. At the most critical moment, the supreme seal of the 9 towering divine pillars had saved Jiyu Fei's life. At this time, Jiyu Fei's real body was sitting cross-legged in the boundary bead. His spiritual soul was extremely weak. He desperately moved the inner world of the supreme immortal physique into the immortal divine martial physique. A part of the inner world was moved into the Dantian. The power of the inner world almost caused Jiyu Fei's immortal divine martial physique to explode. The power brought back by using the godly seizing secret technique was very limited. The power of the supreme immortal physique was almost exhausted after using the heaven ascension secret technique and then self-detonating. He struggled to open the inner world that rushed into the Dantian and released the old tortoise. At this time, the old tortoise had already refined the saint treasure of the demon race, the supreme seal. He set off a monstrous demonic energy, like the birth of a demon ancestor, and rushed toward Fan Xiu. Boom! A huge seal descended from the sky and quickly smashed toward Fan Xiu. A huge and boundless shadow spread out in all directions at an incredible speed. In just a flash, the huge seal with towering demonic energy had already turned into the shape of a mountain. Endless demonic light illuminated the heaven and earth, and the wind blew violently. The shadow of this huge seal instantly became infinitely large. The entire space seemed to be filled by this shadow, and the entire sky darkened. Supreme Seal, Fan Xiu was shocked. He recognized the terrifying seal that descended from the sky. This was the supreme seal of the supreme demon ancestor of the demon race, the supreme sacred weapon of the demon race. At this time, the supreme immortal physique self-detonated, and Fan Xiu suffered a great impact. He could no longer maintain his invincible state. The power of the ancient Buddhist Lord began to fade away from Fan Xiu's body, and his strength fell to the almighty realm. The supreme seal displayed its supreme divine power. It was like 100,000 ancient divine mountains descending from the sky. The terrifying power sealed this part of the world, and Fan Xiu had no way to escape. Boom! Boundless Buddhist light erupted from Fan Xiu's body, and the shadow of a Buddha emerged. He held the green jade ring blade in his hand and slashed upwards. Swoosh! The dazzling blade light tore through the sky and met the supreme seal that came crashing down from the sky. Boom! The green jade ring blade and the supreme seal collided in an instant, and an intense light burst out. This part of the world collapsed, and a terrifying black hole was formed. Boom! Amidst the loud noise, Fan Xiu fell from the sky to the ground. Dust rose high into the sky. He was forced down by the supreme seal, and he was in a sorry state.